Hi, I'm Mac McCarthy, and I help people with their breakups. And today we have a couple stories to unpack, some questions that have come in. It's been about a week since our last live stream, maybe longer, I don't know. But anyhow, we got some stories on deck. If you have a story you want me to unpack in a live stream or a YouTube video just like this, go to writemac.com, send your story in, and we could possibly unpack it in a video, YouTube stream just like this. Some interesting stuff came up, though, this week. Of course, usually it always ends with I want to get my ex back or I want my ex to talk to me again. Writing out your story really does help, gives you some context, and you can't really hide from what you wrote. Sometimes you can hide from what you said. I didn't say that. There's no proof, right? Unless there's a recording. But when you write something, you're like, yeah, I wrote that.
I wrote it.
Yeah, I've literally gone through people what they wrote, and they're like, now that you've kind of told me back what I said, yeah, I can see where it comes from. It crystallizes it, right?
Yeah. Forces
you to go, yeah, that's kind of what happened. So we have those on deck. What's up, Brian Union, Sam Lujan? How you doing? Little night owls out there. And one of the things that's going to come up in one of these stories is an Instagram situation that's probably, for the foreseeable future is just going to be a problem in relationships, right? Like that, Instagram etiquette. You know what I mean? Like when you're in a relationship and someone might go, well, what is it supposed to be? Whatever it's supposed to be for you. I mean, people create their own rules and regulations in their relationships. I mean, some of the things that I hear sometimes, what I've developed is like, if that works for you, stop looking out there for creating morals and values in your relationship. You're the one that needs to create those. There's a lot of open relationships now. There's a lot of people that would say, if you're on Instagram getting attention, it's okay, fine. Who's to say what's right or what's wrong in a relationship? Things have changed. There's a lot of information out there.
Like if you're happy with it.
Yeah, just someone from the outside would say, oh my God, how could you do that?
But to them, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think what we'll start with is you had some short, they're not really stories, they're scenarios, right? Like questions.
Yeah, people send them in for sure. Let me pull them up.
Yeah. Because the story, when people write a story, that's usually something that you pay for on the site. And you spend a little bit more time on that and a little more details. And the interesting thing about this is when B asked me some of these questions, usually I'll say I would probably need some more information to give you a more tailored answer, but I can give you a quick answer, right? All right, go ahead.
Okay. So the first one we have here is, I've been thinking about my ex a lot lately, and it's been 3 months since we broke up. No contact for about 2. What's the longest you've seen before an ex made contact again? And should I break no contact?
First of all, there is no longest. I mean, we would have to take I don't know what the longest I've ever seen is. It could be a year. It could be a year and a half. And the minute someone hears a year and a half, they're like, oh God, I'm going to have to wait that long. Who knows? No contact is for you, first and foremost. Negotiations are off. You are having interactions where it's going nowhere. Someone has broken up with you or you've broken up with them and negotiations are off. That's what it is. It's not to get them back. A lot of times someone might be contacted and no contact was broke. Doesn't mean you get back together. Sometimes people, oh, I left a hairbrush at your house, or, I was just kind of wondering, how have you been? Doesn't always mean you get back together. The reason why it's the best way to possibly get back together in most scenarios is it allows you both to process what it feels like to be without each other. It involves missing you. It involves missing them. And then what happens is some of those issues that seem so important to you don't seem as important, right? Now, there's some danger in that when you break no contact and you're like, I just want them back. Now you're letting down your guard and you're changing the negotiations. You're saying, well, I can overlook the fact that, you work 20 hours a day and you're just providing for both, whatever it is, right? So this idea that it's going to work is where people get it wrong. It always is going to work for you to give you time to process your feelings and what you want in this relationship or the next one. What people don't like is they want something quick. They want a scenario, they want a protocol that's going to work, that's going to guarantee to get the ex back. The problem is every relationship is so different. So it's impossible, and I'll use the word impossible twice. It's impossible for someone to guarantee you that no contact is going to get your ex back. Okay, that's clickbait. On the flip side, what it will do for you is it works two ways. Number one, if they broke up with you, what's the alternative? Chasing, being needy, pitiful. And in most cases, if you're needy or pitiful post-breakup, someone can take you back. They'll usually use you, or it'll be short-winded, or the problems didn't get fixed and they just feel sorry for you. That doesn't make you more attractive.
That's not a good place to be.
No. So what no contact does is that it allows you some time to lick your wounds, figure out what you want, figure out where you're headed, catch your breath, right? And in that process, it's associating you with being without that person. And so if you're going to move on and move forward, you don't want to get weaned off the relationship, as they say, because it's going to happen at some point where you just stop talking. So what will happen is someone will break up with you and they'll go, well, we can stay friends, or we can stay in contact, or we can keep hooking up. But someone's going to get left holding the bag. And they're going to be like, wait a minute, I thought we were seeing each other. We were working on this. No, not really. I was just weaning myself off the relationship because I didn't have someone to replace you. So this idea that it's going to work in 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, it's just flawed thinking. If someone that was a coach, I've heard one coach before that's on YouTube say 8 months. 8 months is the number. I don't know how you come up with that. I don't know how that's
like a concrete, like 8 months. That's fine.
Yeah. I've had a breakup before that it was almost mutual. And when I say it was mutual, we were only seeing each other for maybe 4 or 5 months. I was in my early 20s. We had a good thing going, but I moved away. So there was no wreckage on the field. There was no ill feelings. A year or a year and a half later, she called me out of the blue. And we ended up talking for a while, and it was really nice. And someone was like, oh, you got to wait a year and a half for a no contact. No, it was because I went into no contact. I'm like, I'm moving away. The circumstances are, I don't want a long distance relationship. She doesn't. And the timing was off. When she called me a year and a half later, the timing had changed. We didn't say anything bad at the end. And so the door was open. Does that make sense? Get off this timing thing, because it's going to throw you off. What you're looking for is for someone out there to go 6 months, 5 months.
Stamp it.
The problem with that is, this is really interesting. The problem with that is, if you get to 5 months because someone that, is the holy grail of breakup advice tells you that, or you've created someone in that stature, then 5 months comes, and what do you do then when it doesn't work out? So I'll add a caveat to this. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, that was in a concentration camp in the Holocaust. You know this book, B?
I know of it, but I haven't read it.
You haven't read it. Okay, so he said one of the biggest problems in the camp was when people would have a dream or a scenario where they were like, we're going to get out of here by New Year's. Right. They had a date. And he goes, if that date wasn't met,
crushed.
He goes, within a week or 2 weeks, they would whittle down and die. Wow. This is in the book. So he was saying, like, creating deadlines that don't work out can be very deflating. So I would not create a deadline. What I will tell people in no contact is this, and this is good advice. Do 30 days. Go, all right, I'm going to commit to 30 days. Doesn't mean they're going to come back in 30 days. It just means you can reassess in 30 days, but it gives you a finish line for yourself to be strong. And really, to me, one thing no contact always does, you got some dignity. You got some pride. You're not chasing, right? You could feel good about that 30 days later. Now, in 30 days later, if you want to reassess if you're going to call them or reach out, you can do that. It's a nice finish line. And then you can add another 30 days. B, what's the next question?
So I broke up with my boyfriend 6 or 7 months ago. Then he recently sent me a message on Facebook, and we have plans to see each other again. How should we start the relationship if things go well?
All right. Can you read that again?
Yeah. So I broke up with my boyfriend 6 or 7 months ago, and then he recently sent me a message on Facebook, and we have plans to see each other again. How should we start the relationship if things go well?
So you haven't talked in 3 or 4 months?
6 or 7.
6 or 7 months?
Mhm.
Stop thinking about how you're going to start a relationship and just go on a date. So the idea that you're going to get back together, you're going 0 to 100.
Yeah.
Just get to the point where you're going to go out on a date. It's a discovery mission. You'll see what happens. If it doesn't work out, it's okay. Maybe it's awkward. Maybe it's great. Make another date. Don't get into this thing of we're going to be in a relationship again, because you might be disappointed. Your expectations are too high.
Mhm.
And whatever the focus is, number one, when we see each other, what are the feelings like? Is it like, oh, we're still highly attracted to each other? Is it awkward? It's gonna be different. But if you get into this mode like where you're like, we're getting back together, it's too fast, too quick. Just focus on, let's have a date. Let's see what happens. Let's have another date. Let's see what happens, and stay with that. Getting this idea that you're going to get back together 6 or 7 months later, maybe they look different. Maybe they act different. Maybe you're surprised by how you feel about them. Have you ever run into someone that you used to hook up with, maybe that isn't even a girlfriend or a boyfriend for some out there, right? And then you run into them and you're like, wow, I just don't have any feelings. It's possible, or they just aren't as attractive as they once were. 6 months is a long time.
Or your attraction has changed.
Right.
Yeah.
So just discovery mission, go on the date. It's a date. That's enough. All right. Next question.
All right. Hey, coach. My girl and I broke up 3 weeks ago, and I started no contact right after. What should I do if she tries to contact me during Christmas?
Well, I mean, what's the point of no contact? Is it that you're waiting for her to reach out to you because she broke up with you? I don't know the circumstances of the breakup, so I would have to ask a few more questions. But if someone reaches out to you during no contact, you're completely okay with, talking to them. If she's just saying Merry Christmas, you could say Merry Christmas back. If you know what I mean? You don't have to go, again, 0 to 100. You don't have to go, oh, how have you been? What are you up to? This, that, or the other. You have the power to respond or not respond. Always come back to, what are my intentions and what do I want? Always honor that. If your intentions are really bad, you're hurt by the breakup still, and you wanted to say something hurtful to them. Oh, I saw you in a Christmas picture with your family. You look fat. Ha, ha, ha. It's like, what's that? Right? So know what your intentions are. And also allow yourself, if you're in no contact and they contact you in the moment, you're allowed to respond to that. Right? And there's no, again, this is one of those things. There's no like, oh, this is what works. I would need to know what you're going for. When you have a breakup, there's problems. This is why I always tell people to write into writemac.com or book a session. We need to go over the problems of your breakup. People send in these questions. We don't really get to the problem. We just get to I want them to call me. What do I do? What did you do during the breakup? Did you say some really mean things about their mom? It's probably not going to be that simple to get back together. Right? So you have the power when they contact you to relate to that. Now, if you're feeling awkward, antsy, anxious, and they text you, it's probably not a good position to be in, and you might put yourself in a bad position by talking to them. If that's the case, or you have anger, maybe you don't want to respond. If they're with someone else during Christmas and they're like, Merry Christmas, hope you're having a good one, you might just Merry Christmas them back. But you don't want to go into, how's the new relationship? See how there's different things?
Sure.
Right? All right. You got another one?
Yeah. I recently started seeing my ex again after we broke up for a little over a year. A few dates in, and the attraction feels pretty high on both ends. Do you have any advice on keeping it that way? It was part of the reason we broke up in the first place.
One more time for the people in the cheap seats.
I recently started seeing my ex again after we had broken up for a little over a year. A few dates in, and the attraction feels pretty high on both ends, I'm guessing. Do you have any advice on keeping it that way? It was part of the reason we broke up in the first place.
Meaning that we broke up because attraction was low?
I guess the attraction was low.
Well, I mean, if he feels like attraction's good right now, don't change anything. Don't try harder to be more good looking or more attractive. I would say keep doing what you're doing. Obviously, it's been receptive on her end. And if that's the case, that's good. Sounds like it's been a year. Hopefully you've made some improvements during that year, not for her, but for yourself. You're feeling better about yourself. I just had a client right now, just sent me an email. He's breaking up. He's already talking about, he got a new wardrobe. He's doing some new things with his hair. I have a pretty good body already, but I think I need to wear better clothes that are a little tighter fit. Like, okay. Right. So you think about attraction. You can fix that. You can look better. Now, if they're just unattracted to you for your voice or, your hairline, which actually you could just shave your head. There's a lot of things you can do here. So if you feel like that, I wouldn't change much. Be who you are, be yourself. And if you were together before, they know who you are. So don't overcompensate. Don't try harder. Don't try to be someone different. And then, like I said, always come back to the fact that if that was the problem and you feel good about it, one more date, see how it goes. Don't be walking on eggshells.
Keep it rolling.
Yep.
I think we got one more. Let me see. All right. Help me, Coach Mac. My girlfriend of 2 years wants a break, not a breakup. What does this even mean? And is there any way this is a good thing?
Rarely is it a good thing when someone goes, let's take a break. The fact is, if you don't want a break, it's not a good thing. What's the break for specifically? If it's a problem that's not getting fixed, then it's basically, I still care about you and love you. I don't have a backup plan. This isn't working. Let me move out. I mean, breaks usually don't work. They usually result in breakups, but you need to have the details of them. So what's the problem and why are they wanting the break? Now, some individuals say, let's take a break just to get your attention and win. And so what they'll do is like, let's just take a break. And some individuals will say, let's break up. Then they get your attention. And then now they win whatever you were arguing about or whatever you have a problem about. They know they can drop that. Well, if we have a break, then it'll be okay. But if you've been having the same problem over and over again and you're not being able to fix it, you can agree to that break, but just anticipate that there's a good chance that it will be a breakup. I would say instead, focus on what's the problem relating to the break. So if your girlfriend was saying, like, let's take a break, specifically if the problem for the break is money that you keep coming back to, I'm just giving you an example, then go get away from the idea of the break for a moment and focus on the problem. Is it fixable? If it's not, and they just keep coming up with more reasons to have the break, well, then you have to accept that, right? But it is not a good thing. And I'd actually encourage you, if you have the extra money, talking about money, book a session at rightmac.com and let's talk about it. Because I would need to get more specific about it. Are they using this as a way to negotiate with you or to get their way? Or is there really a problem that's just not being fixed and they're having trouble with it? You definitely don't want to just go ultimatum mode and just go, we're done. I won't do a break. You want to go, all right, what's the break about? If it's completely unfixable, the issue, well, then you're going to have to accept a breakup, if that makes sense. All right. Is that the end of them?
That was it for the short questions.
Man, it feels hot in here today. All right, let me check out the chat real quick. If anyone's on deck and they have some questions, someone wants to join the stream today, I could send you an invite. I do have some time on that. The great Brian Union, getting back is one thing, keeping them is another. I feel like it's no longer worth it, but those feelings about the good times suck.
It's true.
Well, like I said, if you can just go to the core problems, a lot of times someone will get back together, they fix the core problems for a week or 2 weeks, and they get back into their habits, routines, and it happens all over again, right?
You tend to think about mostly the good times, right?
Well, like jealousy, right? Jealousy is a character trait in a lot of people, or a personality trait. In some cases, it can be induced. You know, your partner is doing things that would make most human beings jealous.
Yeah.
Or you have to be honest with yourself and just like, am I just a jealous guy or a jealous woman? And the individual that you're with is always telling you like you're too jealous and you're fighting over these jealous things, right? You get back together and you're like, oh, I'm going to work on that. It's not that simple. If it's embedded, it means you're just insecure. So getting back together, a lot of times, if you're being honest with yourself, did you work on the problems that were presented? If you did, maybe you're just not a good match. And like I said before, a lot of people typecast you. You could work on the problems and do all this work, and they're like, no, that's not really you. I knew you for 2 years.
Or you show like the slightest little, thing that you're going back.
Yeah, because the human subconscious mind wants to be right. So if they kicked you to the curb and said you were XYZ, and you come back and go, I'm ABC, they're going to go, no, I don't think so. See, I feel like getting back with an ex after a while, it's just a failed grass is greener syndrome, just my opinion. I feel like getting back with an ex after a while, I don't think it's that simple, but I know what you're saying. So, because I don't think all breakups are the grass is greener. So, the grass is greener would mean, to me, might mean something different to you, BU, Brian Union, because every interpretation is different on these kinds of things. If someone was to say, oh, this is a grass is greener case, it would mean someone feels like they can do better than you. Now, someone might go, oh, all breakups are like that. No, not really. Not really.
Some are, but yeah.
Not really. Now, if you're going to follow hypergamy would suggest that a woman is always going to pursue a man that she feels is equal or higher to her. And when she's in a relationship with a man, she needs to feel like this is the best she can do at all times. So what happens is if a woman's in an environment where she's around a lot of high quality men, if you have problems, she's going to have a quick out to the exit door, right? If hypergamy takes over. Now, the grass is greener. To me, a lot of times that would mean, and men can do this also. Women aren't the only ones that do this. Have someone lined up or someone they've been flirting with at work, someone that they've kind of started something with. Okay. And so that will change things. So right here, he said it definitely changed when she got a higher paying job.
Right.
That's a significant difference. She's working with a new class of people, a new group of people, maybe not class, maybe a new group of people.
But there's new
and then now I have money. I don't need you as much. So that'll be an identity change. That'll be a change in behavior. That'll be, I can do better than this. I just had a friend recently. We were having dinner a few nights ago, and he was like, dude, I just didn't realize my value. Well, the last 2 years, he started making really big money, a significant amount of money. That'll change you, right? Now, you might go, oh, yeah, she changed because of that. That's inevitable. That's not really your fault. And you didn't make more money. Now, you might go, oh, that's not fair. That's pretentious. That's shallow. No, that's just real, right? If I went from making, I don't know, $50,000 a year, and my partner was making $30,000 a year, and then all of a sudden she gets a job where she's making like 80 or 90, and I'm still at 50, there's probably going to be some judgment there. It shouldn't be that way. And then also just spending habits, things you can do, it'll change someone. Absolutely. Jobs and school changes, they're one of the biggest ones where it's like, oh, that's where the relationship change, because it changes the person's identity and personality. Absolutely. All right, let me take a look at these stories we have on deck here. All right, B, and then you're going to cut these up for later here.
Uh-huh.
So if any of you have a story you want to share, send it into writemac.com. I will be happy to answer any questions for any random people in the stream today. Hey, Coach, I've got my story written. My girlfriend and I were together for over 2 years. We just don't see it eye to eye. I think we've got issues based mainly on her addiction to IG. She posts stuff that has become a little much for me. She doesn't have a bikini body, and I'm okay with that, but she does have a cleavage body.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. I can imagine. And that is different, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And it is still provocative, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I bet, when you look at it too, cleavage has lost its allure with all the pictures that you see on Instagram now that are way more than that, right? It's kind of funny that you mentioned that. If you know what I mean. I can't stop her from posting pics. It's just at some point over this last year, she started posting these pics with her tatas half out. I drew the line when she posted herself in a wet white t-shirt. Well, that's a nice visual. Thanks, bud.
That might be a line.
Yeah. That wouldn't be cleavage. That would be areola stuff. We had a talk, and she broke it to me that she was going to start an OnlyFans. I was pissed and shocked. Well, I think most boyfriends would be.
She was going to start an OnlyFans. Okay.
If it was Andrew Tate, he'd probably say, well, I'm taking 90% of the money. I told her I wouldn't accept it, and she was an online tramp. All right. So, I mean, this is a classic case when someone goes, like, why'd you break up or this or that? It's like, you're not going to accept that she wants to do this. You also find it demeaning because you're calling her names now. She told me that she knew I wouldn't understand and that her friend who's been doing it for 3 months now has already had a 10K month. Money talks. And that's without her hooking up with anyone. All right. Possible. I don't know the ins and outs of OnlyFans. I've had a few clients that do it, and they say that they don't go meet anyone. They do everything online. I've had another client that says they don't do much, but they do meet some people sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a guy. So that being said, you're just opening the door. We're just talking about hypergamy. Maybe she doesn't meet people as an escort, but she's certainly going to be exposed to a lot of guys that she can take her pick from. It's not a good,
her environment.
It's not a good situation to be in.
No,
not for your girlfriend. I wouldn't understand that her friend had been doing it for 3 months, and that's without her hooking up with anyone. I know this friend of hers, but it's bullshit. The friend is a total hoe with no standards. Well, I like how you called her a tramp, but her friend's a hoe. What's worse, B, a tramp or a hoe?
Aren't they the same? I think they're the same.
Tramp sounds nicer, huh?
Yeah, maybe like old fashioned.
And well, here's the thing. This is her friend. Her friend made $10,000 in a month.
So
I don't know what she makes.
She's thinking she can come close.
I don't know what her skills in the workforce department are, but that's a substantial amount of money for a lot of people to do something that's not
like labor.
It's like highly intellectual.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so at this point, I don't think you're going to change her mind because this is a case where the grass is greener in her mind. Literally, no pun intended with, right? So that talk was 2 weeks ago. My girlfriend got the last of her stuff yesterday and she brought that friend. I guess she has all the recording equipment. I'm now starting to think maybe I overreacted and maybe I can deal with it as long as she's not meeting up with guys. This is where no contact processes the situation. Listen, a lot of guys out there would say, oh, I would never. Oh, you know what? I'm one of those. Think about it for a minute. Maybe you feel like, you know what? I could deal with it.
The name calling might have been an overreaction, but like his initial feelings about the situation.
I'm going to say if that was your initial reaction, that's your baseline. Right. Then you're probably not going to be okay with it. Right now, you're lonely. You think you lost your girlfriend. And so now you're overcompensating your values and morals.
Stuff will come up.
The fact that the thing that would bother me about it is, beyond this is my girlfriend that wants to expose herself for other guys for money.
Right.
beyond that is that she doesn't seem very concerned about breaking up with you. She doesn't seem like like when you got upset, you haven't said like she said sorry or she doesn't really want to talk about it. So to me, you're acting like, well, if I'm cool about it, it'll be okay. It sounds to me like even if you're cool with it, she's at the door and she just wants to be let out. That's what it sounds like. And you had to catch her. You know what I mean? It's like, so I texted her, maybe I can deal with it as long as she's not meeting up with guys. So I texted her yesterday and told her, let's talk about it. And that I can understand where she's coming from on making $10,000 a month. That I might be okay with it. Just some rules had to be put into play. She responded this morning with, I'm an adult. I don't want to be under your rules. Don't take this personal, but I've been checked out of the relationship for a while. So here's the thing. That's clarity.
Crystal clear, yeah.
That's clarity. Now, from the outside, you're going to try to renegotiate this and go into story with this. That's clarity. She doesn't want to be with you right now. Beyond the OnlyFans, she was waiting for you to break up with her so she could make you the bad guy. Okay? This is a very common theme in some relationships. Some women don't have the courage. Some men don't have the courage to break up, so they create scenarios again and again where I dare you to break up with me. I dare you. She's daring you to break up with her. Now, if you would have been like right off the bat, like, oh, it's okay with OnlyFans, like, fine. I'm gonna just guess here. If I had Vegas odds, it wouldn't last. Okay, so break up now or break up later. Your girl's going live soon. That's a big deal. Okay, and if you have any balls or dignity, and this was, by the way, this is your girlfriend of 2 years. You started out with no OnlyFans. If you started out where you knew she was on OnlyFans, it's kind of a different game. This is why, right?
That's different. Yeah.
Right? So you're like, I didn't sign up for this. Mm-hmm. If you're going to incorporate it later on, I don't think it's going to work.
It's a huge change.
Right. Is there guys out there that'd be okay with it? Absolutely. Sure. Doesn't sound like you are. If that was your initial response, especially calling names. Mm-hmm. So going back to, I'm an adult. So that might be, let me just get back to this because I just got off. So I texted her yesterday and told her, let's talk about it. And I can understand where she's coming from on making $10K a month, that I might be okay with it. Some rules had to be put into play. She responded this morning, I'm an adult. I don't want to be put under your rules. Don't take this personal, but I've been checked out of this relationship for a while. That's what she wrote. I got really upset, posted some nasty things about her on social media, and now her aunt has contacted me, threatening that she'll send her son over to pay me a visit if I don't take down this post. This is why you don't act on emotion. Okay?
Because you cross the line.
Right. You're in the snake pit now. And are you willing to go lower and lower? What happens is you're like, ooh, got you back. Mm-hmm. Just posted some foul shit, made fun of her online. You probably had some dirty, dark details or something to put online. You're like, I got you back. Mm-hmm. Now the aunts come back and said, and he writes on, her son is an ex-con and a rough character that I wouldn't want to mess with. I took them down. But now I just feel so anxious about things and I just want to call her. Yeah, but now you have another thing. The aunt's pissed off at you. Her son's on the prowl looking to kick your ass, right? And you might go, well, I don't care. Now you have more stress on it. That's why do not act out of emotion post-breakup. Go for a run. Take a cold shower. If you're highly emotional, it's really hard, but don't start posting things on social media about your partner.
That probably never leads to a good
It's
spot.
Impulsive, it's disrespectful, and it's low character.
Mm-hmm. Take the high road.
It's more than just the high road. It's just probably one of the lowest things you could probably do.
Sure.
And it's, like I said, no one, I think, on their deathbed would go, I'm really glad I posted that stuff about my ex on social media. I really got a lot out of that.
All those mean things.
Like I said, and then they're going to go lower, and then you're going to go lower. I took them down, but now I just feel anxious about things, and I just want to call her. Part of me wants to apologize for the post, and part of me feels like I had a right to write those things. Bottom line is, you had your feelings hurt. I get it. Mm-hmm. You want to hurt her feelings. People want you to feel what they feel. So you're going to play this game, but she's also going to get you back. if you continue to do this.
Mhm.
She's going to post some nasty things about you. Right now, she already won because she left you and you want her. Okay, so you're not going to turn the tables by hurting her more. By the way, this cousin of hers that's an ex-con, that's a rough character, throw that in the mix. Okay? Book a live coaching session, all right? Let's talk about this. You're all over the place here. And now you went from it's unacceptable, you're a tramp, you're going to do OnlyFans to maybe I can accept it. Come on, man. All right?
Well, that 10 grand, I mean, gee.
Part of you wants to apologize because you just want your ex back. I just want her back, man. What do you think I should do at this point? I'm thinking of writing an apology letter. Write the apology letter and don't send it. We'll go over it in a live session possibly. Don't send it. A lot of people want to do this. They think it's a way to get them back. You're not really sorry. You just want to find a way to get her back. I think that you're upset. You have mixed feelings, and that's natural. Right now, you need to focus on the fact that she said she's been checked out of this relationship for a while. That hurts. It really hurts. But you do need to be in touch with reality here. She doesn't want to get back anytime soon. So your only option is no contact at this point. There's no other alternative. You're not going to reason her into it. And you even said like, oh, I can deal with OnlyFans if you're on it, if I have rules for you. And she's not going to do any rules. She doesn't seem like that type of woman. And she's already displayed that she doesn't want to do it. And by the way, you said she picked up her stuff. Once a woman moves out, you're not going to get back together in a week or 2 weeks. You're not going to get together because of an apology letter. People are going to test the market when they move out. So moving out it's a big step in a breakup. One. Yeah. Until you can be in like faulty places in your relationship, but someone gets their stuff and moves out, they got to pay someone rent. They got to do things. They got to, they got to move all their stuff. They're not going to get back with you because you have an apology letter. And the hard thing is, if you're the one that kept the place, it's hard because human beings associate environments with certain things, and you're going to associate that place with your girlfriend. And so it's going to feel ghostly.
Your TV show is going to come on that you watch together, that kind of stuff.
Right. So I'm thinking of writing an apology letter. I'd say go ahead and write it, but don't send it. If you really think you have to write it, because in your particular case, you said some mean and nasty things and posted them on social media, that is wrong. Any way you dice it.
Could you do like a brief, not even like a letter or something, but like if you really do feel guilty about, what you said to her, could you just,
That's what I was just going to say. Right. If you do it, keep it short,
right, okay.
And curt. I'm sorry for what I wrote on social media. That was out of line. I just want to let you know that. Don't go, oh, I wish you all the best. And I remember that one time when we took a Carnival cruise to Cancun and like all this other smushy, mushy things. Don't do all that. Just say, hey, you know what? I was out of line to send you to break what I broke on social media. I apologize for that. And that's it. Because and this is what people do. They think saying sorry 5 times gains power. It actually gains pity.
Like the more you use it.
Well, I mean, if you say sorry to me 5 times, it's annoying and it weakens the sorry. It means that you're not getting the reaction from the sorry that you want. So you think, if I say it again, maybe you'll jump in my arms. It's like someone's, most of the time when someone says sorry, the best response from someone else is like, it's okay, I understand. Or thank you. Or even silence, just acceptance. But you don't really get something. People don't, when you're sorry for something you did that was really wrong, sometimes people don't have to forgive you. That gets lost sometimes. What do you think I should do at this point? I think you should be in no contact. I think you should book a live coaching session with myself and unpack this a little deeper. But if you write the letter, keep it very short. It's not a letter. It's just that. Do you think that will work or help keep the door open for her to come back? The one thing I would say about the apology specifically for going on social media and writing bad things, that's something that you probably do want to apologize at some point because it's just dead wrong. You and her broke up simply because, and I say simply because there's no camouflage here. This is very easy to see the problem. She wants to do OnlyFans. She wants to make money from it. She even told you, you're not going to control me about this. You're not going to make rules for me. And I've been checked out of the relationship. It's cut. It's clear. You got to digest that. You got to sit on that. You got to deal with it. There's not going to be a play here, a Hail Mary, as one of my clients said one time. Oh, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary with an apology letter and some roses and some flowers. There's no Hail Marys in like there is in American football for a breakup. Like, oh, maybe this will work. No, not really, because if you write a 2-paragraph apology letter with pictures and all that other stuff, and you feel like, oh, I really went to work on this and I was thoughtful and I put my heart out on the clothesline, and then nothing comes of it, you don't feel better. You feel worse. Give it 30 days of no contact. Apologize just for what you said, and then leave it alone. And I would add, stay the hell off social media right now, because she's going to start advertising for OnlyFans. I'm not even making a joke here.
That's not.
I would probably just tell you, and this is where I would go all in on no social media. Basically erase, unless you need it for work, all your social media accounts. Tell your friends not to give you access to theirs, or your brothers or your sisters. That's what people do all the time. Oh, I got my brothers and she's on there. If you see her advertising for OnlyFans, it's like opening up the wound again and again and again and again. And at some point you'll feel tempted to do what you did before, where you laid out there on social media some intimate details or something. I've heard about this before too, where some guys that, especially guys, one of the ones that's come up recently the last year or two more than I've heard before is guys where the girlfriend breaks up with them and they show up at the new boyfriend's house, or the guy she's seeing, and they show all the intimate pictures that they have of
just to the new,
ex,
right,
or the video,
right, to the new. Wow.
Like, look what we've done. Look what she sent me all the time. I was like, you did that? I mean, it's pathetic,
right?
Because you think you're making her look bad. Mm-hmm. You think that it's like,
how would you feel?
It might upset the other guy and it might mess up her new relationship, but at the same time, it's like you're just trying to hurt her, and you think the other guy's going to be upset that he's with some tramp or some hoe, as the guy said in this thing. But reality is, that's your girlfriend, dude. That's the girl you've been with. You're hurt, and you look like, a sore loser. That's what it is. All right, so we have one more story here. Let's check in with Brian. He's made a few comments. Anyone else has some questions about your breakup, your relationship situation? Put it in the comments. I could take a caller today if someone wanted to hop on and ask some questions. I'll throw the invite up. But with her kids, it cancels out. We still almost equal. She did tell me I was content, but also said it's nothing wrong with that, but I'm sure that was a lie. He's compromising because he don't want to lose her. First off, she's not going to come out of the gate making that kind of money. Who is this girl? Well, I don't know enough about OnlyFans. I don't know how it works, but if she's got a friend that's experienced,
that can guide her,
a little mentor,
yeah,
or they can, I don't want to use the word tag team, but team up. Mm-hmm. If they can team up, maybe, I don't know. Bottom line is, whether she makes that kind of money or doesn't, he's in that situation right now where he's got to embrace it, mm-hmm, accept it. But right off the bat, where he's like, nah, this has been his girlfriend for 2 years. Have you ever read the Iceberg Slim book? Do you know who Iceberg Slim is? Mm-hmm. He was a pimp in the 70s or the 80s, and he wrote like an autobiography of dealing with, he's a real pimp. Job, yeah. He's a real pimp. Yeah. And I read it last year, and it was probably some of the best writing I've ever read. It was just some of the details in the book. It's not good stories in the sense of like,
what?
It ain't chicken soup for the soul. I'll just tell you that. It's more like coal for the soul. I mean, it's like, it's dark.
Right.
The treatment, the abuse. But
where was he? Like in the States? And
he pimped all over America. You never heard of Iceberg Slim?
Never.
Oh, man. I just picked it up at a used bookstore. It was like I said, I couldn't put the book down. Anyhow, one of the things he was saying is that how you start a relationship is how it prevails. Like, in other words, if you started a relationship in a certain way with certain values and morals and expectations, and then you try to change them a year later, it just will never work. And this is coming from a real pimp, right? Which is different than regular relationships or relationships outside of that. But it came to mind, like, you've been in a 2-year relationship where there wasn't OnlyFans, and now you just throw it in. If you met her and she's like, this is what I do, then you can, then then you can embed it in there. But, you know, in a monogamous relationship, look at it this way, right? If you're the guy and you're going to do OnlyFans and you look a certain way to get that much attention, and you, let's just say you get, you know, a lot of followers and whatnot, temptation's going to take over at some point. You're just putting yourself in a bad situation. All right, one more story on deck. So, here's the invite link if anyone wanted to come on and ask a quick question. Coach Mac, I broke up with my girlfriend 35 days ago. I caught her texting with 35 days ago. Wow, you're
specific.
Yeah, I caught her. Well, this is what you do at 35 days, okay? I caught her texting her ex multiple times after I told her to stop doing that and that I would break up if it continued. She told me she understood, and in front of my face, she deleted his contact info, or so I thought. Dun dun. A week later, I saw her ex had liked a couple of her photos. And then I did some further digging through a friend that knew her ex, and she had commented on his picture with his shirt off. And then there's the statement hot with 2 T's, exclamation point. Okay. He responded with a fire emoji. Oh God. People, but isn't it amazing how much weight is put into this?
Big time.
She said hot and he said a fire emoji.
Big time.
The guy is a former model and does got a six-pack. He's just a Chad type, which is just a created term in the internet. No brain activity, he writes.
Okay.
I've actually met him a few times randomly when I was with my ex, and it felt like she was greeting a movie star. She had this blank stare, and it was like I wasn't even there. Well, sounds like she's still into him or attracted to him. She once told me that he really broke her heart, but she still cared about him because he was such a good guy. All right. Well, at least she's telling the truth. After I broke up with her, she begged me back and told me she promised she wouldn't call him or text him ever again. I just left her on red. About 10 days ago, she stopped texting altogether, and now I feel like she's gone or with him. All right, so this is one of those classic things where people do this thing where they're like, she's always going to be on the sideline and available.
Right.
You broke up with her. You had your reason. She's contacting her ex regularly. She fucking lied because you said in front of you she deleted her contact availability. I don't know how she would prove that to you, because there's so many easy ways to have a burner account, right? I mean, even ball players are having burner accounts found out. Kevin Durant, right?
That's right.
So I don't know how you figured this out or cracked this case. You know, I would venture to say that people do have exes sometimes that they're still maybe emotionally cheating on you with or still attracted to. And if you didn't really do the Sherlock Holmes work here, you wouldn't know. But this is your rules. This is your thing, right? It wouldn't feel good if I had a girlfriend that was, you know, riding hot on her ex-boyfriend's thing. I don't know how we get around this in like the 21st century. I think this is going to be very common.
I think so too.
That being said, stick to your guns, because like you started out with, it's a good rule, like don't contact your ex too often. The fact that you ran into him and you felt like you were her side piece and this was like the guy of her dreams. Okay. Right? Now bet on yourself. About 10 days ago, she stopped texting altogether. Now she feels like it's gone with her. I want to call her now. It's weird because when I left her on red, I was fine, but now she stopped texting me. I want her back. Well, yeah, you controlled the frame. You thought she was always available, and you haven't met a replacement in 35 days, right? So you got to give yourself a little bit of time, instill your dignity and your balls here. I wouldn't call her back. If you do call her back, you're just opening the door for her to do the same thing again. And even if she stop contacting this Chad type, I think she has this susceptibility 6 months, a year down the road to contact him again. Or if he contacts her, which he knows she likes him, that's also open. I haven't really dated as any women since we broke up, but my friend who knows her ex said the Chad guy is actually in a relationship and is moving away soon, so I shouldn't worry too much. Well, dude, you're broken up 35 days in. So the idea that you're worried or not worried, if you want to, by the way, if you've come to your senses in the sense that you're like, you know what, it's not that big a deal, this guy's out of the picture, he's with someone else, whatever, I wouldn't wait too long. There is a window. If she's fairly attractive, she's not going to keep texting you and saying like, oh, you know what, I'm sorry. And I would venture to say this Chad guy, if he is that good looking and he moved on from her, he probably doesn't want to scrap out on it again. He's already went down that path, right? So I wouldn't worry about him too much either. But the fact that she thinks she could do better than you with him, that's a problem. I don't know what to make of it. Is it normal these days for guys to accept their girlfriend contacting exes telling them they're hot? No, I don't think it's normal. I think that some guys wouldn't have a problem with it, but those are the types of guys that probably would have other options or would be playing the field. So if a guy was like, oh, I'm cool with it, that kind of tells me that
he might be doing something similar.
Yes. Or he's just not that serious about her. Now, is it more common than ever before? Probably. Sure. Right? I mean, how can one avoid this? Seems like IG is a problem now for any relationship. Well, date women that don't go on IG. That would be
filter for that.
Yeah. All of them aren't going to be ones where they're saying hot or something like that. It's usually not this blatant where she's interested. But if someone that you're dating says, oh, my ex was really good looking or hot, I think that's something that you can deal with. But them going on Instagram and texting those kinds of things in the present moment while you're together, you got to decide on your own morals and values. And it sounds like you already did. Don't go back on that because you're lonely. It's only been 35 days. Bet on yourself. Move forward. And there's plenty of women out there that probably wouldn't do this. Right? So I hope that answers your question. All right, that came out to almost a clean hour there, 53 minutes. Any comments on any of that, B?
I mean, I think we have seen it more now, like this IG thing. This,
you still got to. One thing is once you, both of those stories, right? Scenarios, what you want to call them. There's a line driven in the stance, like, no, I'm not going to be okay with you doing OnlyFans.
Pretty clear line.
No, it's been 2 weeks and I haven't gotten any intimacy and I miss you, and it's okay now.
No,
it doesn't work that way. It's like when people do ultimatums, you just got to be careful because ultimatums in the moment, you're like, yeah. And if you don't do that, if you don't start doing this, I'm done. And they go, okay. And you're like,
wait a second.
2 days later, you're like, oh, that didn't work out the way I was supposed to do it. But here's the thing. Ultimatums happen. Scenarios like these happen. Your first instincts are usually the ones to go on. Right? Who wants, you're in a monogamous relationship. You've been in one for 2 years, and now your girl's like, I'm going to do OnlyFans. Now, if she had sat down with you prior, here's a scenario that I could roll with and said, look, you know, Katie's doing this. She made 10,000 last month. I'm thinking about doing it. I think it's an opportunity. I'm only going to show my cleavage. I'm only going to do this, this, and this. I wanted to talk to you about it first, though. That's a different scenario. But her just starting to post more and more provocative pictures and then just lay it on you like, this is what I'm doing. I don't care what you think. Different scenario, right? One shows respect. One shows that you come first in the relationship. The other one just says,
if you're not cool with this, then yeah.
But also she said, I'm at the door anyway. She just wants you out of the relationship. She's daring you to break up with her. Mm-hmm. You got to think about it like this. If your partner's putting out there very provocative, sexy pics, especially as a female, there's a certain level of advertising being done. And whether that's their job, like as a model, or they're just really proud of their body because that's their, you know, they go to the gym a lot and they have a great body and that's their way of getting attention. It's okay, but you're always in a situation where they're going to have more options than you have because you're not advertising as well. So don't be surprised when they're more easily pivoting out of a relationship, right? Because they got a lot of lines in the water. Sounds like he need to get in the gym. All right, Brian. All right. Looks like we don't have a whole lot of comments. I know in the States, it's probably, 2 a.m. for a lot of people, 3 a.m. Anyone have any questions before I go off here? Or if someone wants to join the live stream and ask a few questions, they certainly can. It's kind of funny, though. There is some relationships where the guy go 10K a month.
10K? Okay. Let's talk about this.
What are you
doing?
You want to go get the cameras today? Odd Carlo, listening to the stream while I'm working. Right on, Odd Carlo.
Right on.
Norway's finest.
Soon to be Texan.
The Salmon Slayer.
Yeah.
That's all I know about Norway. Home of a lot of salmon farms. Actually, I know people that have gone to Norway and really love it. Mm. I'm a logistic operator. I'm sorry, but it's like, hey, man. By the way, yeah, I believe you. Norway looks beautiful, though.
It does look pretty scenic.
It looks scenic, but cold.
Yeah.
Do they have northern lights there? Someone told me before. I think they do. A friend of mine that had went there and showed me some pictures of when the lights change like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. It's Petty Betty.
What's up, Petty Betty? Mac Daddy.
How do you get over the idea that we won't be getting back together? I've been hurt so long, I don't even want it. How do I get over the idea that we won't be getting back together? That's hard. It takes time, Brian. Time. I mean, I'd like to give you like, you know what? Do this, this, and this.
Dating other people, and I mean, that helps.
Dating other people, yeah.
I mean, it does. I'm sorry, but yeah.
I know the minute you notice a difference in clients when they start talking to someone new.
Exactly.
Now, I've said this before. I remember this just came up in my head. So years back, when I had my bad breakup that I always mention, right? That was bad at the time, but actually was a godsend later on.
Yeah.
I remember my mom married my father when she was like 21. My parents are like 5 years apart. Mm-hmm. And she had a high school boyfriend, like 2 or 3 years. I don't know how long they were together, but like they were together, and that was the only boyfriend she had before my dad that I know of. But what do I know? You don't really dig around your parents' history when you're a kid.
No,
you don't. You know what's funny about that? You know what's funny about that? It's like you'd never think twice about like what's your body count to one of your, like, it's just, You just closed
Yeah.
your eyes like, what? I don't even want to think about that,
Yeah.
right? So, like I said, growing up, that never comes up because you're just a kid. So when I was in a breakup in my late 20s or whatever, and my mom's like, you know what? You know, when I broke up with, I'm just going to change the name, Jonas. When I broke up with him, because I knew she had talked about this boyfriend before, because this was like, you know, her high school sweetheart or whatever. And it seemed like a good guy. It wasn't a bad thing, right? And she goes, I remember he had to go away to college and I stayed home and it was hard and we knew it wasn't going to work or something. You know what I mean? It wasn't all bad.
Mm-hmm.
But she goes, it was really hard for like 2 or 3 months. And she goes, I remember I just met this guy that was from the Navy. That I was like, you know, you're like,
Yeah,
what,
I never heard about this.
What's this little fucking rendezvous on a weekend? I don't want to know about this. You know what I mean?
Where are we going with this? Yeah.
Right? And I'm like,
Right.
and she's like, oh yeah, and you know, he was in the Navy and he was here for a week and we just had a good time and we like hung out, and I remember just feeling afterwards like better that I was able just to meet someone else that I liked, that I was attracted to and have fun with.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing came of it, but we just had fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, sometimes I just talked to a client a couple days ago, and he's talking about someone he works with and they're not together, but it's a crush, like a crush.
Mm-hmm. The initial, yeah.
Yeah, like, and the funny thing about crushes, you can have a crush when you're 50 with someone you work with or someone that's a neighbor, right? It's just one of those things, like, usually a crush is someone that already has someone, right? They're taken. Not always.
So
Or you feel like they might be, there's a reason you can't pursue them because, or you're in a relationship and you can't just ask them out, right? But the crush grows because there's resistance, right? And there's this, but when you're out of a breakup and you just get a crush rather than, at least your mind goes, there's someone else out there that I have strong feelings for. And so this client, like I said, 3 or 4 days ago, was just talking about this crush he had at work.
Mm-hmm.
And he was real, like, he was like, I know she's got a boyfriend and everything like that. But he's like, she's so pretty and she's this and she's got a great personality. And he's just like, and in my head, I'm like, it's a crush, you know? And he's like, I would never cross the line. And I know he wouldn't, but he's just, but the thing is, it was the first time he wasn't talking predominantly about his ex.
Right.
And now he has someone in that place where he's at least negotiating the idea that he can do equal or better.
Right.
Or there's someone else out there that is better than his ex. Because we even talked about it. I'm like, sounds like she's a little bit better and more lined up with what you want than your ex. So to me, like dating apps and things like that, dating apps, it's hard because you're just going on a picture. It's a very shallow meetup. And so someone from work or someone that's in a group of friends,
where you have a little more
neighbor.
connection. Yeah.
And this is why, if the dating apps aren't your thing or you're not having a lot of luck, put yourself in some scenarios where you're going to be around women, you know, around more women in those situations, you know, where you usually, a simple thing you can do, like maybe you usually make your own coffee, right? This is just a random thought. Start going to a coffee shop in a cool area and just being around an area where there's some good looking women of high value,
where you have a chance to start up a conversation
or just
whatever,
or just feel attracted to the presence of other women. Maybe you don't even say what's up to them. At least you're like, wow, there's some other fish out there that are really worthy, you know, like having that, right? Lucky Ducky Daisy Flower says be gay. Okay, gay actually means happy in English.
It does.
Be gay is the answer to what? Lucky Ducky Daisy Flower.
Just be happy.
But you know what I mean? Like, at least you're coming across other women where you're like, now that I'm single, like I have the possibility, and maybe you're not ready, but you at least have that in your mind. Whereas if you stay in too long in the dating apps, if you're so removed from it, if you're so removed from like being interaction, and now that COVID's over, there's no excuse. Where COVID, like people be like, well, I remember I was talking to someone in Paris that's a client of mine, and she was like, we had one of the worst, like everyone had where they had to stay in the home, you know what I mean, and stuff. So now you don't have that excuse. And I couldn't say something about that when I was, coaching them. I couldn't say like, well, just break the COVID protocol. Like, you can't do anything with that answer. It's like, all right, I got you, right? But now it's like, where can I meet or at least observe, not stalk, which is what a lot of people do on social media.
Talking.
Right? Like, just go to a coffee shop and just observe. Mm-hmm. And maybe you're like, I'm not ready to ask some girl out in the coffee. At least be around them.
Just be around. Yeah.
And that'll help. Will it cure it? And you got to change your routine. So your routine is if you were with someone for 5, 6 years, 2 years, 3 years, your routine's connected to that. And so you're always getting triggered by that.
So break that.
You got to break that.
Yeah.
And if the dating apps, you're like, oh, dating apps aren't working. What's an alternative to dating apps?
Go get a pedicure. I like that.
I had a friend, I've talked about this before, that he just shaves his head. He's got a, receding hairline. Since I've known him, he had a shaved head. Mm-hmm. And he'd go to hair salons. And I remember asking him, like, why do you keep going to hair salons? I could do that haircut for you, dude. And he was like, the women that are the hairdressers are beautiful. And he ended up with a hairdresser.
There you go.
He was going to multiple, you know who this is, right?
Yeah.
He was going to multiple salons getting his haircut every week. I'm like, he's like, I love it. Salon talk. And he was not a feminine guy at all. So like, if someone's like, oh, that's feminine. No, he wasn't. Mm-mm. He was actually the alternative to dating apps. He was putting himself in an environment with a lot of women, a lot of hairdressers, if that's the term, or salon women that do hair. They know a lot of women too. Mm-hmm. So you might get hooked up with someone.
Put yourself in that situation.
But those are alternatives, right? But the idea that you also sometimes, in the beginning, Brian, because you said, how do I get over the idea that we won't be getting back together? This is another one you can go with too, Brian.
Your mind will stop fixating on that. If you're
accept at some point, instead of fighting it, accept like, I've been through this before. Have a self-talk with yourself. I've been through this before. I've gotten through it. I'm going to get through it again every time it comes up. And so when you get to a point where it's really hard, right? Where you're like, yo, don't profile salon women. Some are artists or business savvy. I didn't profile them, Lucky Ducky Daisy Flower.
No, some definitely are.
Just cool your jets there, all right? Lucky Ducky Daisy Flower. Cool your jets, all right? I have a lot of love for women that are in the salon. No problems at all. You know what? They're artists. They're business savvy. Okay, I agree with you. You got me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, I did? I profiled them? So tell me how I profiled them, Lucky Duck. Okay, so you're one of those. Cool your jet, son. How old are you?
See?
Petty Betty's works in a salon and knows me well. Lucky Ducky Daisy Flower. Is there a relationship breakup you want to talk about, Lucky Ducky Daisy Flower? I like dating apps because you can select preference like no kids. You meet them in person, they're attractive, but got 2 kids. Man, I mean, that's one of those things. Mm-hmm. It depends on where you live too, Mm-hmm. Like if you lived in a college town, it wouldn't be as prevalent, right? So I know I say this a lot. I don't know, Brian, because Brian, you took couple years off my live stream. I hadn't seen him in a while because he had a new relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I say it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
One thing to consider, if you've been in the same apartment for a while, move to an area that's maybe more fun, closer to downtown. Just a fresh start. Now, if you're like, dude, I can't afford it right now, I got too good a deal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying to entertain that idea. So when you ask me, like, sometimes people ask for ideas and they don't want to get out of the dumps
because it's just a little.
I'm just offering you things that might redirect the ship.
Sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's a huge one.
It is. And so if you've had, you got let's say you have an apartment, or let's say you live in a house, whatever it is, and you're like, you know what, I can afford an extra $100 and maybe like just go apartment hunting and move somewhere new because where you live, especially if you were with your ex there a long time, can associate some of those memories, and a fresh start in a new neighborhood or a new area really helps. And I've always suggested that to people. Now, it's not always in the cards. Some people are like, I own my house, I'm not going to move. Okay. What I would ask, like, do you like where you live, or is it just a means to an ends? Right? Is it just a means to an ends? But it's a great opportunity when you're single, like, to be like, I don't have to negotiate where I move to. So, being in a neighborhood where, or an area that's new and fresh
kind of gives you new life.
Yeah.
A little bit.
What would you say, B, would be the best place to meet single women for you?
Probably, since I'm into sports or golf, something outdoorsy like that. I don't know, golf. Like
golf is a place to meet women?
Oh, well, yeah.
You mean a golf course?
Like going to the range, like working at a golf course. I used to see girls all the time. They used to go up there.
Really?
Yeah, you wouldn't. Honestly, I would have never thought it before I started working there. But especially like they would just go, have fun, like with their friends or something. Something I'm interested in. So yeah, probably like.
I think it's important to be in environments or places where you are interested in it, like golf. Mm-hmm. Like you're an expert, you're pretty good at golf, so it puts you in a good position.
Right, like it's comfortable.
Another thing you can do, I think Brian was change gyms. Like because I'm pretty sure Brian said he goes to the gym regularly. Change gyms to maybe a gym that's bigger or has a different group of people. Join group classes. Nah, I don't want to do that. I'm just giving you stuff.
Those are examples.
When you're like, what about this? Because it just takes, like, if you're in a group class or you're at the range and you meet one, like I said, it just takes one woman in your particular situation, Brian, where you're just like, maybe it doesn't end up being your girlfriend, but just proves to you that there's some other fish in the sea, that there's other possibility.
Definitely go watch Tin Cup, by the way. Petty Betty.
Tin Cup's a great movie.
Great movie. Even if you don't like golf.
Was his name Roy in the movie?
Yeah, I think so. Roy.
Knock it on, Roy. Give me another ball. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Who's the female lead that's...
I don't know her name, but I know what you're talking about. I want to say Renee something.
Yeah. She's good in it, though.
That's a great movie. They don't make movies like that anymore, to be honest. It's probably one of the best modern-day golf movies.
Yeah, other than the Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore. Caddyshack.
Caddyshack's...
It's in the hole. It's a Cinderella story.
Yeah.
Wow. Those are just things like, Brian, though, that, when you're like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of, those are things you can do, but definitely change your routine, change the places you're going, change the gym, consider getting a new apartment. Those are things people go, oh, no. Like when you do those things, it forces you in new communities with different people, and it takes your mind off things for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're in new areas, you have to be more observant and more present.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Of course.
All right. Anyone have any closing questions? Thank you, LOL. I always get a good closing question usually.
Someone waiting to get
You feel like it's hot in here today?
a bit, yeah.
It is hotter in here today, huh?
I'm usually
I got the AC all the way down too, man.
I'm throwing jackets on. Single can be fun, for sure.
Breakups suck. I need to just stay single. You know what's funny about that is like when you start to embrace being single, like when you get back on deck and you get everything going, and then you get into you think to yourself, well, it's a lot of fun, and or you're dating maybe a few different women, or in Petty Betty's case, maybe a few different men or something like that. Things are going really well, and then you meet a good match and you get a new relationship, and you think, and then if you break up again a year or two, why did I ever just stay single? Right. What the hell, man? I was doing really well without her.
Just a different chapter.
How about this though, Brian? On the flip side, I'm gonna give you credit. Like, at least you're meeting new women, going into new relationships, and growing from it. So what I mean by that is that there's guys I know that they've been 8 years, 10 years dormant.
Just waiting.
Not just waiting, just maybe had an issue from when they were young, scared of rejection. There's a variety of things, but then they want to get back out there. It's hard. It's like
just that the amount of time.
You might be thinking, oh, I've had 3 breakups in 5 years. But if you look at it and you're like, but you've had some good moments with those women. You've learned some things about relationships. You've had some good intimacy with them. Like it's not all bad. Would you prefer, let me ask you this, Brian, would you prefer that you were single for the last 8 years, or would you prefer that you've had the relationships you had? Now, the interesting thing about that is you might go, well, yeah, I'd rather be single, just assuming that it would be so great and there would be all these great hookups and hot women. But really, if you were single that whole time, it's a lot of work. That's why a lot of people end up with someone, because it takes a lot of energy to get to meet someone new and go out on dates and do those kinds of things, and having more shallow relationships. So at least you're taking your swing. And what I mean by that is like, you're not, there's guys I know that just stay in the dugout. They don't ever, they don't even try. And it's much harder for them. The way this breakup hurts.
Well, how long ago was it?
I think it's been almost a couple months.
So it's still fairly new.
Yeah, there's a chance here, Brian, with your case. Yeah. You're doing the right thing. I can tell you that much. You've handled yourself well. Absolutely, and obviously, you're not bad with women, because you even if you've had a few bad relationships, you always meet a new one. You think you are, and
the relationships keep getting better from what I remember.
Right. But there are some guys though, like they're starting to date again. You're like, you said what? Or you did what? Just no clue. Almost 3 months.
So yeah, still fairly
That's
new.
A sweet spot. I'm getting better and better. You're getting better and better. You're doing the best you can right now, Brian. Pedicures can be very therapeutic. I prefer a good massage over a pedicure.
Have you ever gotten one living here?
A pedicure?
Yeah.
On my toes?
Here, like in Thailand.
I think in the massage shops, I've had women that have offered to do it or done something like that. But I actually am very proud of my feet. I have very nice feet, very clean.
So
I've been complimented by many a woman that I have nice feet, and I'm proud of that.
So Mary would have like no work done for you.
I'm pretty nice, and you know what? I walk on the beach barefoot a lot. You know what that does to the skin on your feet?
Like the abrasiveness of the sand.
Yeah, I can, and so living by the beach here, you see people all the time wearing shoes and stuff because it hurts there, right? But I mean, so it's kind of like having a foot scrub on the beach, right?
Yeah.
So I've been complimented that I have nice feet. It's not a common thing for people to say that, but I've had multiple girlfriends say, wow, your feet are nice. Because there's some people that have some,
I'm sure Mary,
foul looking shit going on their feet, man. Where you're like, whoa, man.
I'm sure Mary's seen it.
But I wouldn't be opposed of it. I know a lot of guys get manicures.
I've gotten that.
Yeah. Not something I've done.
I've dated a girl that's
actually, you know what? I should take that back. I have had a girl that I went out with that I think she was going to like cosmetology school or one of those and wanted to do it. But it's just something funny. Just remember this. She talked me into, because I was working a job where I wore a suit. I think I was doing an internship in San Francisco for a real estate company, and I was working Nordstrom's. It was while I was in college, and she was like, put a clear coat on your nails, like a clear coat.
Yeah.
And she was like, this is what businessmen do and all this stuff, right? And I remember like one of the dudes I worked with, he's like, did you fucking put a clear coat on your nails or something? I'm like, fuck, man.
Like he called you out.
I mean, I wouldn't do it. You know what I mean? Like I was like, oh yeah, maybe I should. I think I was 19 or 20 at the time or something like that. And he was like, did you clear coat your nail? I'm like, no.
He gave you shit for it.
I would. Yeah. I was like, I guess some do use that. You didn't get a clear coat on the manicure, did you?
No,
it was like
no polish on it.
It was some kind of shiny coat.
But they do like the the cuticle stuff.
Yeah,
they get in there like that. That works. I've never had that done. But that was good.
Yeah. It's never been my thing, because I think my hands are pretty good. I have my one bad finger. It's been split in half.
So you never thought about being like a hand model or a foot model?
I'm not a hand model, I don't think. I got some long fingers though. 2 months blocked Brian. Try 2 years. You'll get used to it, even though I blocked her. That's nice, Carlo. That's encouraging. That counts, buddy.
Yeah.
You need to be my client then. It takes 15 months and 27 days to get over a breakup. Great point, Mary.
15 months, 27 days. Write it down.
I'll know when Brian Union's over because he won't be in the live stream.
No, we still want to see Brian.
Yeah, Brian won't be in the live. It's like, that's what happens in my line of work. I'll see people every 2 or 3 years. And then it's like, once the breakups happen, it's like 3 months of like,
don't leave us, Brian. You can still drop us, other stuff other than breakups.
What's nice is I've developed a file on people where I'm like, I know about your breakup from 2 or 3 years ago. And it's kind of nice that you don't have to tell that to a bunch of people that are coaches or therapists, where you're like, oh, he already knows about got
to start this one over again. All right.
You already know about this one or that one. Yeah.
See? You staying?
Nah, I think I'm staying this time.
I like it.
Like I said, man, every time you have one, you grow from it. As cliche and played out as that statement sounds, almost I'm like, oh God, this is
like what
Instagram quote. Everything's growth.
Do you want me to write it in Instagram?
You know what I'm talking about? Sometimes I'm on Instagram like, God.
Again with this? All right.
How can we be unique? The biggest one that I've put up quotes
before. Yeah.
Right? And I still put up quotes that I really like, that I really do like. But like,
they're not just bullshit.
The amount of people on the Stoics, that's the one that gets me. I like Stoics. I like Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius said this: stop complaining. Really? There's a couple other people that said that too. Ryan Holiday. Marcus Aurelius also said, "Get your sleep." It's like,
So stop complaining. Get your.
You got to pull these things up. Sometimes it's like,
I'll have to look through these.
I remember I worked with this girl at a charity I was working at as a teacher, and she was like, my uncle said, if you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail. What is it? If you don't prepare, you're preparing to fail. It's one of those cliche statements or something. And I said, well, your uncle's not the only one that said that. Everyone in the office was like, like laughing.
And she meant it like, no,
she was being really dramatic about it. She's like, why? I was like, wow, okay. But Marcus Aurelius said this. It's like, and it's not even a quote. It's more like
a general guideline.
Yeah, like, be quick, don't run. It's, you know what I mean?
Okay, I can try that. Be quick, don't run. Are you checking Marcus Aurelius quotes?
If I pulled him up too, and it's like Ryan Holiday, I'll be like, okay, the Stoics. It's like, and then he'll pull out a Meditations, Marcus Aurelius book. This is 200 years old. This is my favorite version of the book. And it's like, this guy's an author, and he's just, I'm all for the fact that, like, I'm into book notes, I'm into remixes of different people's material. But the stuff that he's regurgitating from Marcus Aurelius, at some point, I'm like, why? Because it's simplistic, but it's also like, that's what Marcus Aurelius said.
It's got the weight.
What if Marcus Aurelius came back from the dead? What would he think about you? Would he go, oh, I really like this spokesman I have. He's a real stoic. I'm just curious. You know what I mean? Or would he be like, who's this piece of shit? Like, who's this guy that would never be on the Roman Legion? He's definitely not a gladiator.
He's passing the message along.
Because I'm just thinking, the only thing I know about that comes to mind first is Gladiator. Because Marcus Aurelius is in that movie.
In the very beginning.
As an actor, right?
The very beginning.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're just like, what would be respected by Marcus Aurelius isn't some guy on Instagram going, stop complaining, says the Stoics, right?
Yeah.
He wouldn't find that to be like, you know what, this is one of those people that I would want in my Senate in the Roman Empire. I don't think so. Not a lot of value there. Courting. And people just, the simple quotes like that from the Stoics are, oh man, that's a big one. Stoic philosophy. We're going to start doing book reviews soon, dude. But we'll make them better.
Like with your own take.
You don't have an Instagram, Mary? It's probably a smart move.
Me too.
I wouldn't have one if I didn't have to do it for...
Me too.
It's probably why I'm not as active as I should be on it. If I didn't have to do it for coaching. But it does serve a purpose for contacting people and stuff. It's probably better than Instagram or Facebook. All right. All right, folks, it's been good. It's been grand. Mary, thanks for joining. The great Brian Union. Hang in there, bud. It'll get better, man. You're doing the right thing. You're doing the best you can. It's tough sometimes. And sometimes it's just all happening for a reason.
She just deleted the pics?
My ex deleted pics of us, but she kept the pics of stuff I got her.
So just the pics of you and her together.
You don't want to know.
Right.
It's got to be the hardest thing post breakup.
I'm telling you.
I think if I could do something that would be really special, it would be a breakup retreat. And it would be occupying your time for a month in Thailand.
What better place than
right?
Thailand,
But it would also be what's up, Parisa? Haven't seen you in a long time.
What's up, Parisa?
Been looking for you in the daylight with a
Parisa.
flashlight.
Parisa.
You and the number one thing I would do, like if there was a breakup rehab, would be like, all right, give me your phones. Give me your phones, guys.
You get them for like an hour a day.
It was funny. I was in a yoga class yesterday, and I know in this yoga studio that I go to that the guy doesn't allow phones, which I just
Like you check them at the door, or you leave them at a.
well, you just
or you
I
don't bring
mean,
'em, whatever.
I've been in some yoga classes where someone can check their phone or put it to the side, but some of it like just electronics,
Bag or something.
you know, in the room.
Yeah.
The guy's checking his phone, and I had a moment where I was going to be like, "Hey, man, no phones." And then I'm like, "I'm not the teacher." You know what I mean? Like, what do you want? You like, and he brought in like this bag, and I thought to myself, he's probably thinking to himself, like, "You gonna tell on me?" And I thought to myself, I don't want the fucking phone in here. Like, it starts going through your head. It's funny when you do yoga because you can't talk.
Yeah,
it's all like stretches, so your head will start running with something.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, just let it go. If you take out that phone one time, I'm telling the teacher. Parisa just had a breakup last night. Do you want to call in right now, Parisa? Do you want some fresh advice?
Fresh.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Where are you at in the world, Parisa? Those are nice mountains. Me and B have so much in common.
Yeah.
Wow, petty.
We actually do.
Do you like golf?
No,
and he's gotten a manicure once?
And no Instagram.
Oh my God.
UK.
That's funny.
Okay.
It's funny because before you join this live stream and stuff, she used to always say she wants to learn golf. She has a weird way to. I've never heard someone pronounce the word golf though before. Like she does. She calls it golf. Golfing. Golf. Oh, you don't. Oh, she's gonna call in. All right, we're gonna get. Okay.
Did you drop the link in there?
All right.
Drop it again.
So the way this works is it's about $5,000. I'm discounting it today for $500, but if you call in right now, free. Here's the link. So Parisa, you can, if you don't want to use your video for some reason, you can just call in and turn the video camera off. If you want to use the video, that's fine. Remember when we had that? No, Petty Betty, you don't have a breakup or anything like that. I don't want you harassing B. She wants to call in and clarify her pronunciation of golf.
On golf. That's what it is.
That's what she wants. That's what I know she's thinking. She's like, wait a minute. You're going to say that I talk like this?
What you were saying before, the call, you were talking about the call-in?
Yeah, Parisa, go ahead. I was just about to sign off, but I'll do a quick call for you.
We got a fresh breakup. Come on.
Golf. It's almost like golf, like the Mexican golf.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how some words people say? Have you ever heard a Singaporean accent? Do you know anyone that's Singaporean?
Yes, but I can't.
They have a few words that they have a different kind of English.
There's a lot of mix in there, right? Isn't there like?
Yeah, I had a few people I worked with that were Singaporean, and their English is great, but they just have a few words that have a different accent. Parisa's gonna call in. Good.
Right on. Headphones too, right? That's better to have headphones.
Oh yeah, thanks, B. You got to have some headphones. It's probably the best way to
get it going.
Man, this is gonna be fun. I love call-ins. All right, man. I might have that accent. Sorry, I profiled you.
Don't let Mac profile you.
I profiled you for golf, right? People are funny, man.
Mac the profiler.
What does it mean to profile someone? Like to assume that they are a certain
without
way.
really knowing just what they look like or sound like.
You know what's funny? When a person says you profiled, it's like, well, now you're profiling me. You're profiling me as a profiler with your assumptions. You know, it's like, calm down. I'm gonna have to take a pee though. That's one thing.
I gotta figure this AC situation out.
It's hot, huh?
Yeah. Let me see.
Might just be that it's hotter out today, but I know. It's okay. Everyone's allowed in the stream. It's typecasted. It's better to say typecasted. You're right, Brian. It's the same thing, too. We're not saying profiling anymore. It's typecasted. Whatever. Who makes you the profiler police, too? You know, like, no, that's what you're doing. Okay, according to you.
That didn't even make any sense.
Yeah, it's funny. Little kid in the back of the room trying to get some attention. All right. Give me some kind of sign here, Parisa, that you want to do this. If you don't, it's all good.
She's just finding
I'll
some
sign
headphones.
off.
She's not. She's looking for headphones.
Oh, she said she was looking for headphones?
I'm just
Oh.
making that up. Oh, there we go. I called.
Huh? It's funny how my screen has a delay and you're ahead with the comments. All right, you're going to call in now? You got the link, huh? All right, let me take a wee. Oh, here she goes.
Are we good?
Parisa, are you? Hello, hello? Oh, add. There you go. Got it. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Crystal clear.
Crystal, that sounds good.
You have headphones in, Parisa?
I do. So sorry, I couldn't, for some reason, open the link properly at first.
No problem. All right.
Gotcha.
We got a fresh one here, huh? Fresh breakup.
Yeah. I couldn't actually sleep properly last night. It's early hours of morning in the UK. So yeah, just last night, I guess, I don't know, the relationship started off pretty weird. I met this guy in a work conference, and we just got talking, and then we came back to the UK, still in touch. He said that he had broken up with his ex 2 months ago, but it later came out that actually he was already checked out of that relationship mentally, but he sort of left it to pursue something with me. So I guess he was already done with it, and I was just like the tipping. And then the relationship started off really intense, I think, from his end. He was very focused, just messaging me like almost essays, like day in, day out. And he would try to call, like he was just very much pursuing me, which was like nice, but also I did like think, wow, he must really want this. So in the end, like we sort of became official, and then I did like find out later the situation with how our relationship had started relative to his past relationship, and that was a slight shock, and it came out with an argument, and I think he actually used it to impress me in a way, to say like, this is how much I wanted it. But in a way it scared me, because I did think like how he could leave a 5-year relationship in that way. Like, I guess it was actually more negative in my mind than positive. And yeah, so like at the start of the relationship, there were many things, because I'm basically finishing my PhD, I'm writing my thesis, and he was very intense in the sense that he wanted me to focus, so that he's doing his postdoc, and he wanted me to finish so that we could apply for jobs. And he was really like, I guess a lot of our arguments stemmed from that at the beginning, and maybe like differences in the way we are. I guess I'm a bit of I lead a bit more of a wholesome life, whereas he likes to go out drinking, and I've never actually raised any of those as an issue until they became an issue, such as like one night when he went back home to his hometown. He basically went out with his friends, and then he exchanged Instagram handles with this girl, like maybe wherever he was, in the bar. And then I later found out the next morning, and I caught him out because I guess my detective work was good. And then I think that was one of his major things. He said that he can be a weak person at times. There was nothing in it. He would have deleted it after. And then a few weeks later, when it was our birthdays, he had already planned something ahead of time before we had met. So like we had to spend our birthdays they fall like 2 or 3 days difference, so they fall very close to each other. And then he had some other thing. He had to go to a gig with his friends. He like tried to apologize and make it up to me by coming like 2 days after, so we could celebrate our birthdays together. At that time when he was with his friends, I guess he had drunk a lot. He wouldn't like message me for some time. Like, I guess maybe he was avoiding me because he was like off his face. I think he had drunk a lot, and I didn't really like ever prescribe to him how much he should be drinking. But I guess when it got to points where I felt like this could be actually hurtful for our relationship, I guess I sort of backed away, and in a way I did give him an ultimatum as to like, this sort of thing doesn't really work for me, and that maybe I'm not his person. I guess they weren't empty threats, but I guess I set those boundaries very clear to say like, actually, maybe to that extent, like it doesn't work, the time before, it probably contributed you to behave in that way. But then I don't know, like I don't know whether I was a rebound for him. And then
how long were you actually together, like officially?
not long. So actually I would say from July, but I guess the overlap with his last relationship, it's a bit hazy to me, because apparently he broke off at the start of July and we became official in mid-July, and me thinking all this time he had broken up with his past partner, his ex-partner, like 2 months before.
Oh,
So
okay. So how did you figure that out, that he basically lied? Like I've been broken up for 2 months. And so how did you figure out, how did you come to learn that?
Well, at first, I genuinely didn't think like, one, I didn't think this is how it started. Two, like it would have never have occurred to me. It basically was during I don't know, it was some form of argument. I don't exactly remember what it was. It wasn't like a heated argument, more like a messaging, because he lives like 2.5 hours away from me. And then he wanted to prove to me how much he was so serious about us by bringing up the real story as to how we started. I think he wanted to use it in a positive way to like
Oh,
make me think,
as if he left this other woman for you.
right. And I didn't actually take it in a positive way. I thought, well,
You're like,
I
you're like, actually, I have a pretty good memory, and you told me it was 2 months before. That's right. That's what you
yeah.
were thinking, right?
Yeah, and
Maybe.
I was thinking, like if I've been with this person and he's been this intense with me and he left his relationship in that way, then what's chance do I stand? He's been with her for 5, 6 years.
What was his reasons for breaking up with her?
He just said he felt disconnected with her and he had checked out months prior, like in his mind. But I almost, I don't know, gave him a snapshot of like who he could be with. I guess that was a way to also flatter me, I'm not sure. And then that sort of tipped him. And then I think, is there anything else you want to ask or should I continue?
Um, so you were together about 5 months. We'd say from
Yeah.
July, 5 or 6 months, and then it's been long. You're 2 hours apart, like as
Yeah,
far as the distance and how you live. So how often do you get to see each other?
so before he was coming here, sometimes he would stay at my parents. Because I've moved back with my parents. But
It's
I'm
nice
hoping
your
to move
parents must
out
like
soon.
him if they let him stay at the
No,
house.
so yeah, they let him stay at the house. Well, obviously, my parents are pretty traditional, so they would make us go to separate rooms. And I guess he didn't like that. And so, like, in the end, I made more of an effort to go and visit him.
Mm.
And so I would get the train and I would go and visit him.
What were the so if you had to break down, what were the problems in the relationship? And he broke up with you or you broke up with him? I'm a
Well,
little
like I
confused.
think last night, basically, I think I'm a pretty like I wouldn't say I'm a possessive person, but I think I'm a bit. It triggers me. I think in the past I've had experiences, be it in like my past relationships, my different experiences. I think I'm very like I can be very protective and possessive. If I'm being honest, I can be very possessive and controlling
Protective,
actually.
what do you mean by protective? Like
I don't
jealous?
know, like jealous, I guess that's the word, but like I think with him, I really wasn't to begin with. And I think the things that he almost the lying and then the incident with the whole Instagram thing, I think it
How did you
almost like
find that? Let me ask you this. You said you had some intuition, but how did you really find out
I
that
actually dreamt about it, which is bizarre. I had a weird dream that he was with another friend. I've never seen his friend. And then there was this other person. And then I thought to myself, I woke up in the middle of the night and I swear, and I messaged him. I was like, where are you? He was like, I'm in a taxi. By his messaging, I could tell that um he wasn't like sober. So like you could tell like he couldn't message properly. And
got
then
it?
I just said to him, this isn't good, like really this isn't on. He was meant to go for like a few drinks and then he ended up like going home at 5 a.m. And then I didn't call, or maybe I called but he didn't answer. He was just saying I'm in a taxi, I'm sorry. He couldn't really message properly. And then I just slept that night and then I couldn't sleep because I'm a heavy sleeper, but in the morning I got up really early. And then I just thought to myself, well, I'll just like look at his Instagram. And then I realized actually during the time I woke up in the middle of the night, I saw he had one follower went up, but I just thought maybe like he's had requests. Like I thought maybe I'm being a
Little
bit.
Sherlock Holmes here.
And
One
then
follower went up. I love
and then
that.
and then the morning the following went up as well. And I thought, well, whatever this connection happened, it must have happened. So I didn't really say anything. I didn't say anything. I just asked him straight up in the
That's a good
messages.
approach,
Yeah,
though,
yeah.
is to ask rather than accuse.
Mhm.
So you get a
Yeah,
point
I just
for sure.
said,
Ask the question directly. I always tell people, don't accuse, ask, and then
I
see
just
how they
said, what
react.
did you get up to? I just said, what did you get up to? Like, did you talk to like other people? Did you like go for like a bar? Did you go to a club? Like, I was intrigued to what he was up to. And then I said, also, did you by any chance add anyone? Like, did you meet anyone to add them? And he was like, no. I was like, okay, that's fine. Um, and then later, I asked again, and then he was at his grandma's that following day. So he was just like, when I get a moment, like you could tell in his messaging, I didn't even speak to him. You could tell there was a form of anxiety. There was some form of cover up, but I wasn't accusing him of anything. And then he called, and then I said, when he called, I said, hey, like, I didn't like the way you went about last night. You didn't even tell me that's what the plan was going to be. And like, you were drunk, you couldn't even talk to me. And then I was just like, so are you sure that you didn't like talk to anyone or like add anyone? He was just like, and then I could tell from his voice, like maybe the messaging I wouldn't, but his voice I could tell. I was like, okay. I was like, are you sure? And then he was like, then he didn't say anything. And then he confessed. He was like, yeah, basically I was with my friend, we spoke to a group of mainly guys, there was one girl with them. She basically took his, like, they got talking about work or something, and then she took his phone, found herself in his phone, and then requested, and that's probably where the delay with the following came up. I was just like, so what was your intentions? Like, what did
It's a
you
good
want to
question.
get out of that? And then he was like, nothing, I'm just a weak person, I went along with it. I was just like, well, are you gonna go along with everything? Like, is she gonna like kiss you? You're gonna go along with it? Like, what? And then he was like, no, no, no. Obviously, that's the boundary. Like in my past relationship, in my last relationship, that wasn't like any, I guess, major thing. I guess it was sort of a norm in his last relationship. He wouldn't go, beyond a boundary of like physical contact or like messaging. But I guess to that extent, it was a norm for him. I mean, that's the way he said it. But I don't know, because now, last night, he was like, well, maybe there wasn't enough gap left between my last relationship. Clearly, there wasn't. You overlapped us. And then he was just like, that's probably how why I did what I did that time. Like last night, he was just referring to that story, but again, he was tipsy from a Christmas work do.
So you
So
broke up with him last night over this?
to be honest, like I think I've got like more of a, what is it called, anxiety attached style. I went a bit like fighting for us. I was like, I didn't break up. I actually started off by saying, you know, maybe I'm not your person and stuff like that. Again,
Oh, you're
referring to
testing
another,
him.
yeah. So I wasn't really ready to say that, but then I said it, and then he was like, yeah, you know what? That's the way I've been feeling the past month or so. Everything he said, he was contradicting. I said, do you
You
love
weren't
me?
so when you put up that little test,
The
you were
test,
thinking like that wasn't the
the
answer I was
outcome that,
looking for.
yeah, the outcome.
Yeah. I was like, well, he took it literal. And then I was sort of fighting for it. And then um, he said he was going to call me back. We put the phone down. He said he would call me back in an hour. He never did. He messaged instead. He was just like asking how I was. I'm like, I'm okay. I think during that period of not talking to him on the phone, my anxiety levels dropped. And I think I almost fell into the strong mode because I guess my relationship before him was so traumatic. It it's both been triggering for me, but also I think it's like given me a tougher skin. So like,
Oh, your prior relationship to this?
yeah, which was like around 4 years ago. And I think, yeah, so like actually with this person, he was the only person I actually gave a chance to. I wasn't really ready for a very long
So
time.
so what's the all right, so if you had to narrow it down to what's the problems in the relationships? The one follower that he took on is one of them, and
Mm.
he lied about it originally, but then he
Lying,
told the truth
He
after
told the
some
truth.
crying.
probing.
Mm.
Um, and then the fact that he's kind of lied a little bit about the fact that the overlapping of basically there wasn't a big gap in the relationship as he had said before, which you have a good
No,
memory. So those are
no.
two things that kind of triggered you in the sense that you can't trust his word. So now you're
No.
questioning more things, correct?
So
Is that
I guess exactly, and I think in my past relationship, because I've had experiences which made me not trusting, I guess I went into this very much like open-minded and thought to myself, I'm not gonna let those part of my like past sabotage this. And I guess his lying, and I guess the whole drunken incident, and I guess the overlapping, and having found out as like when we were in London messaging, he hadn't even like I think it was a couple of days he'd broken up, he'd slept with her, like maybe it was her way of trying to like save their relationship, I don't know. It was just all a bit very twisted for me. Whereas I had given myself like almost 3.5 years of like not really dating anyone. I would like agree to go on dates
but you're
and pull
getting a
out.
PhD right now, right?
Yeah,
So that's pretty intense,
That's intense.
it is
correct?
intense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
I don't have
I
a
don't,
PhD, but I know people that do, and they sometimes have to put off relationships or break up to kind of concentrate on that. So that it's not,
yeah,
is that part of it? I mean, because you got to
that's
really
part of
focus at that
it.
time, right? That makes
It's
sense,
true.
right? I mean, so that's a,
I
you're putting first things first with your education right now. If you're going to go for a PhD, I mean, like I said, I don't have one, but I've been in the university system and whatnot, and been a teacher for years,
Yeah,
and it's intense. So
it's
I think that,
intense. But
so
I
what,
would like pull out of like going actual like meeting people, going on dates. Like I would be asked to go on dates. I would agree to it because I wanted to move on. But like I would so be like repulsed by the idea of them and the whole thing that I would like pull out last minute.
what
And I
happened in
think
your
he
first relationship that was so bad?
so it was like I was 17 when it started, and by the end I was like 28.
Sure.
um and like I don't know, it went very toxic. I think I was very young in the relationship. I had started my PhD, he was very young, and I think it just went downhill, and it became pretty traumatic the way we ended, and it ended on like an email. So like yeah,
You
like
feel
I think
healed now 3.5 years later, or are you holding some things?
I would say I'm more or less healed from that. Like I went for therapy, I
Okay.
journaled, I had lost like close to 15 kilograms after that
Wow.
relationship ended. And I was
Hmm.
already a very slim person. So like I started gymming, eating more, and then I felt like I honestly, when I met this person, I felt like one, I wasn't looking for anyone. Two, had he not pursued me with such high intensity, I don't think I would have even given him a chance. I even said to him before meeting up, like, I have a history of pulling out, like, be aware, like, don't take it personally. And so I warned him. I told him about my past in our messages. I warned him that this may fall through, like I may never actually meet up with him back in London. But then I think I mustered the courage. And in the end, I went to meet with him. And then it all like got very like even more passionate. Like it was very intense. I feel like this 4 year relationship has been equivalent to a year and a bit. That's how intense it was.
Maybe you were
And
just ready after 3.5 years. You were
Hmm.
dormant for a long time, and
Yeah.
it's timing. But what do you?
yeah,
You just broke up last night. I'm listening. I'm taking notes of things, and I
yeah,
have a good memory, so I'm listening. So
yeah.
right now, where are you at with the problems that you have, and what do you want at this point? Do you want to get back together? Do you want him
Mm,
to quote unquote fight for the relationship? What would be ideal for Parisa, if I said your name correctly?
well, yeah, Paris, that's fine. It's all good. Yeah, so I think last night, I do think I was a bit more intense just because basically the reason how the way last night transpired was uh the night before he went out to see one of his girlfriends, so a friend that's a girl that he's known for some time.
Friend girl.
And yeah, and so like at the beginning he told me that she was going to go with her boyfriend, and that another one of his friends, which I know, was going to join them. But then it all like ended up in him being alone with her, like from like, I don't know, 8 till like 9 or 10 in the bar, like just them. And I guess I did feel jealous. And I was like, I think one, if maybe I would have been jealous irrespective of my experiences with him, because it went against the plan. I told him like I don't really feel comfortable, and I saw their friendship is platonic, but I think him with a drink, and I don't know, I felt very insecure in this relationship ever since those incidents as well. And so like I guess I went a bit intense on him, messaging saying like, I'm not happy about this. Like, you didn't even tell me when the whole group meeting up situation happened. So you guys were just buying each other drinks. Like I just said to him, I've not even had your focus. We've not even had a 2 hours, 3 hours worth of in-depth conversation. And I feel like it's almost like you're building that with someone else. I mean, I was intense and I do hold my hands up to that, but I don't think I'm Holly to like blame for the whole thing. Like I do feel like he's caused insecurity more so within our relationship that's only been a
Well,
short period.
I mean, you don't drink and go out too much, right?
Right. I do
So that's
occasionally, but not really.
not your thing. It's not something that you do regularly. So you don't relate to the fact that like he likes to go out, have some drinks. He's a little bit more social than you, correct? So there's
Yeah, yeah,
like, and that's not a problem. Also, the PhD thing, probably you're not as social during this time, but it sounds
yeah,
like just your nature is to be like this. So you're going to have to give him the benefit of the doubt when he hangs out with these friends and different things. And the drinking can bother you because you don't drink. So you don't relate to it as much. So
yeah.
what I would say is just to get a reading on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your attraction to him? On a scale of 1 to 10, what's your chemistry and connection? And on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your trust?
I would say attraction is probably like 8, 9.
Good. All
And
right. What's
then
the connection and
chemistry
chemistry?
connection, I would say that's pretty high as well. Well, from my side, I don't know, probably from not from his side now. But from my side, I would have said that's like a 7. And at times, like there's been bursts of 8, but I would say average 7.
Okay.
And then
And trust?
trust, I think after everything, my trust is probably like a 5. And
But
I say
before this incident, what was it?
I think it was like an 8. Like I felt like my hope in humanity had been restored by the way he would articulate himself. I genuinely
Well,
thought, where has this person been all my life?
well, I mean, to be fair, and I'm not taking sides, I'm being objective. This is what
Mhm.
you want my opinion. The time you confronted him on the follower from Instagram, right?
Mhm.
He did come clean.
After
Like
like
it
how
did.
many though?
No, no,
Interrogation.
no. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to like just let him off the hook. I'm just saying that it wasn't like you just caught him in a clear cut lie that he kept going with. Number two,
Mhm.
what happened yesterday? It sounds like for you to know that he was alone with this woman from 8 to 9 in the bar. He told you that, right?
He
So
said
he was.
they were going to be a group, and then it ended up as her boyfriend not turning up, and then his
Oh, she had
friend
a
didn't turn. So it was
boyfriend,
just
but he
yeah. So
told
it
you
was,
that, right? He gave you that insight.
after I asked, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm like I said, not taking sides. I'm just saying that
No, of
he's
course.
come clean, so he's not just completely blatantly
Mhm.
going out of his way to lie.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, I can see where you can be a little bit insecure with some of these things, but it could be just attributed to the fact that um, you guys are 2.5 hours apart and you're not seeing each other very often. So this is a kind of like a long distance relationship in some ways, right?
Sort of, but I would say like I've been almost every weekend to his, or like I mean, just
Okay.
last weekend I've been with his family and him on their like little family trip. So like I think he was a bit more uncomfortable coming down here later on just because he felt like he can be himself. And I guess I took it upon myself to be more of the person traveling back and forth to alleviate that for him. For me, it wasn't so bad. Like, I think I can just be a bit more like reserved in that way and feel connected. But I think he said he didn't feel comfortable. So like I tried to like fix that. And like because I'm finishing my PhD and he's a postdoc, we both wanted to apply for a job in Europe. And so like it's just all gone downhill. Like he was very
It's not
intense.
that bad.
He had
It's
like a
not
list of like our future plans. Like I was like, this person is just like so serious.
Intense.
And now
Yeah.
I
so
feel
you felt
like
like he was more serious than you are.
I felt like he was very serious. I said to him, like, I'm also I don't do casual relationships. I said that to him. And I said, like, I would be looking to like for this to end in some formal like commitment, like marriage in some time. Like I wouldn't want to waste all my life and my existence and my being if I don't feel like there's a clear path to where we're going. And he was
Sure.
very much on board. And but now it like last night with his like Christmas and the fact that he was a bit tipsy, it almost came out like he was almost like lying about the agreeing to the whole thing. And it was almost the way he made it out was like he was being like that because he'd come out of a relationship, so he was like up for doing all of that. But in fact he had been the driver in a lot of the things, like the sharing of the lists of like books, things like he had compiled so many lists of the things we wanted. Like I don't know, it was sweet, it was refreshing. I don't think and
Are you
then it's
thinking
like
after this conversation last night that you're completely done? Because it sounds like there's just this sounds like there's a 50-50
Right.
chance like you can get back together on this. This isn't beyond the things that he's done or said. I understand where you're coming from.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
understand your concerns, and I understand that there's certain things you put up with and don't put up with. But if you want to reestablish this thing, you can. I mean, I don't think it's at the point of no return, if that makes sense. So if you
yeah, but
want to,
thing is though, like the fact that last night I asked him twice whether he loves me, he said yes, but the third time I asked him, he was like, I don't know, that's a big question. So I think that hurt
why'd
me.
you ask him a third
Yeah,
time?
that's-
I don't know. I think I just wanted to like
that's
the
being immediate.
reassurance.
Yeah.
Okay, so just as a man and being in experiences like that, I mean, how many times are you going to ask him, right? So you've been together 5-6 months. First of all, people don't realize this. Everyone's definition of love is a little bit different. So people can get frustrated.
Mm.
Like some people, I didn't grow up in a household where we said, I love you a lot. Doesn't mean I don't love my mom. It just means I don't say it consistently.
Yeah.
And I'm not comfortable. If someone's like, why don't you say it? Why don't you say it? It's like
Yeah.
awkward. So don't take that as a personal thing. I'm not just saying
Yeah.
from my experience, just all the people I talk to, people are different with that. So if you put someone like, do you love me? Do you love me? Do you love me? And they said twice already, it's kind of like,
I was like anxious wreck, and I agreed.
you know what I mean? You're
Like,
kind of pushing them in a corner. Like, now I don't know because I just told you
What-
twice and you don't believe me. You know what I mean? It's like, that's what I'm saying. So
and
I
he
think
kept
with
on saying
your,
we're very different, and he kept on saying we're very different, and I don't want to draw you in closer. And then he was like, I'm not even sure about marriage. Basically, he was using every excuse under the sun, like to basically say that. And then I just thought to myself, well, how has this happened? The tables have turned here massively in my mind. And I thought, well, like now I will retract. And I guess I calmed down and I stopped being like that needy, like anxiety driven person since last night. And I think I almost feel like I've got a bit of like power in me, but I feel also very fragile. And I don't know, I just feel like the words that he said, the way he went against and contradicted the stuff, the fact that he first told me that that incident was him being weak and going along, and that there was nothing in it, he was going to delete it ultimately. But then him saying actually it's because he hasn't been single for a while, not that he wants to sleep around, but he's not had time. And it's like, I don't know, it's all those contradictions now in my mind. I
you're
just
in
feel
different
like
places.
But this talk was right after he had been out drinking, right?
yeah, exactly.
So I don't know where his mind was right at the time of this conversation, but if he'd just been out partying and maybe he was still hungover, I have no idea.
He
One
sounded
thing I'll
tipsy.
tell you,
So that's, I mean,
One thing is he's telling you what he's thinking, so he's not
Mhm.
playing games in that
Mhm.
sense. Because there's some guys that would never say that because they don't want to get
but
into.
this conversation was while he was maybe still a little drunk as well, right?
Is that true?
Yeah. So I would say he was tipsy, but and I did say to him, I said, "Is it the alcohol?" He was like, "No, I'm sober enough to have this conversation." And he could hold a conversation, but he was slightly very slow on his words. So you could discern that he
And
wasn't
you,
sober.
Carissa, you're 31, 32?
Yeah, 32 now.
Okay. Yeah, this is
And
a
he's
spot.
29.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is a spot for women 32 to about 34, 35, where they're like, I want to get married. I want a serious
Yeah.
relationship. You know what? Just talking to different women from all over the world. This is kind of a sweet spot.
Yeah,
And
it's
so
a bad position for me. Like, but having said
it's not
that,
a
like,
bad position. You just got, what I would say is that it's not a bad position. It's natural. It's a natural spot. And you're also putting some things together because it sounds like the PhD is coming soon.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So and it sounds like, I'm just going to guess, if you're getting a PhD, you've been a pretty good student your whole life. So
I've not really. I just think like somehow I've been lucky.
people don't get lucky with PhDs unless
No,
their parents give them like a free PhD and they own the university. I mean, come on, give yourself some credit,
you're
hun.
being easy.
So what I'm saying is, a lot of times people that do well in school or do well in these, school has these real clear finish lines, right? Like, do this,
Yeah.
this, and this, and you can get a good grade and you can pass and you get this degree. Do this paper and do this. It's like relationships aren't like that. They're very situational. They don't have a very clear finish line. And so if you're used to that and that's what you go on, and then you're like, well, I want to get married. You still have a year or 2 years to get to know each other, which you're doing right now. Even though you're in a
Yeah.
monogamous relationship, you have a high level of attraction. This is, and by the way, when you said before, like, oh, the trauma of the 3 years and the breakup before, I think it's great that you took this time away from it. And I think that the fact that you weren't looking for someone and you found someone
I
is a
really
good thing.
wasn't.
But
Yeah,
it's a
like,
good thing. That means that you
but
really did
also now,
like
I
it.
don't want to get married for the sake of marriage. Like, I want to either be very much in tune with someone and actually find someone that's worth my time and I'm worth theirs. And like, I just don't want to treat it as a milestone. But I guess with him, my mind just got carried away, and I thought, wow, like, I wish I'd met this person sooner. And it's almost like everything about him, his intensity, his focus, and everything was so short-lived. I feel like like, I don't know, like, I just feel like it was a bit of a, what's it called, like a bit of a love bomb in a way. But I don't
Could
think maybe
be.
he was conscious of it. Maybe he was trying to like shelter himself from his past relationship. And like, I don't know. And I just feel like I was a bit too trusting, and
Well,
I went,
it's interesting. You just broke up last night and you're already past tense on everything. So are you like done?
I feel like because he said like he doesn't know that he loves me, and the fact that he contradicted all the things that we had panned out for ourselves, I think it almost has tarnished in my mind to the extent where like if I am with him, I'm gonna like resent him. And I think
So the
that is
fact that he
probably
went
the,
back on his word is very big for you
for
on
me,
something.
yeah, exactly. And I just feel like I don't now want to get like, I don't want
He's
now
going to
to
call
recover
you
from
again.
this.
Yeah. But
He's going to call you. You guys are going to be in contact again, it sounds like. That's what it sounds like. So
I think he wants to be single, to be honest. And I think I've now become as intense as he was when we began. It's almost like now the shoe's on the other foot, really.
But you said his
And
intensity. You said his intensity has been or has gone down. Did it just stem from this conversation last night? Is that the only, or
no,
has it been?
no, I would
It's been
say he was getting more focused on work and applying for jobs. I helped him with his CV, and he was helping me. So I guess he was more focused at work. Before, he was lashing out a bit because he was unhappy with his work and how it was stagnant, and he was putting the pressure on me to finish up my write-up so we could move on. So like that was where like all the contention was in the mid of this short period relationship, which feels like 100 years. So yeah, like um his thing dropped, but it wasn't like he was blatantly trying to ignore me. I could tell he was more focused and more content with his other areas of his life.
Sure.
Yeah.
So moving
And
forward, I would say this. I would say that you know what you want, but this is the reason why I said about your 32, 33, 34 is a lot of times you're still only together for 5 months, so you're still learning each other. But a lot of women want to ensure, like, I'm not wasting my time. Is a very
yeah,
common theme. Like that hit it on the head, right?
Yeah.
So what
yeah,
they'll
yeah,
do
yeah.
is, and I'm not being negative, but this age range, there's this big pressure of like, I want to meet someone, I want to get married in the next 2 or 3 years.
Mhm.
And so you're only 5 months into a relationship. And there's some things here, like, I'm with you. I don't think they're of no return, right? And I could tell, like, you've taken your time and you didn't just fall for someone that's some loser or something
Yeah,
like that, right?
yeah,
So
yeah.
he's going to call you again, and you're going to probably renegotiate things or whatever you want to
Hash some
do.
things
Yeah,
out.
hash
Yeah.
some things out.
Yeah.
That being said, take a little bit of a step back in the sense of the marriage part, that you still need a year or 2 years, 3 years before that even comes to the table. And what
Mhm.
happens is, and this is just my observation dealing with women in this same situation, is that they'll keep pushing this. Well, we're going to get married. I don't want to waste my time. And it'll push the guy away because
You're forcing that.
you're forcing that. Or
Yeah.
I asked you, did you love me 3 times? And it's like, for guys, it's like fee fi fo. Like, what do we need to do to just stop arguing? So they'll just go like, okay, what do you want me to say? Or like this, and you seem like you're good at digging, which is, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
tell me you love me. Tell me that again. So what you want to do is take a few days right now. And if you are missing things with him and you want to renegotiate things with him and talk about things when cooler heads prevail and you're not so emotional, which right now I wouldn't say you're highly emotional. You're very rational about this thing. But this guy hasn't done enough that you just want to throw this away necessarily. But on the flip side, here's the good news. You've established to yourself after 3.5 years of not being in a relationship that you can be in one. You can be comfortable. You've been intimate again. And maybe this was just your introduction back to dating and maybe revisiting things. And don't feel like, because there's all this stuff on the internet like, oh, you've been love bombed or you've been this. Maybe it lines up with that, Parisa, but it
I
doesn't
didn't
mean
like to label. Yeah.
wrong. You didn't do anything
No.
wrong. So this guy,
I was oblivious most of the time. I don't think I would have agreed to the relationship had I known he'd left someone else, to be fair.
right, but you were highly attracted to him. He's an 8 or a 9, which is big. He's got some things going for him. He does, like I said, he doesn't sound like a loser. The fact that you were willing to invite him to your family's home means that you had some high regard for him. And some of the things that you mentioned, like I said, you caught him with the follower on Instagram. You caught him. These aren't things that are like, oh my God, like extreme, but they're important to you. But you've proven to yourself, like you're just getting back into a relationship game that you were away from for a long time, and you really only had experience with one person that didn't end well. So you have a few things here. You could completely attempt to, let this relationship go into no contact and just say, you know what, I'm done. I don't want to pursue this. This isn't what I thought. Number 2, you can wait a day or 2. And when he calls you, have a conversation again, revisit some things. Or number 3, really establish what you want in a partner and a guy, and then go through that list and ask yourself this. Does he line up with that? Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes what we do, myself included in my own love life in the past, we're opportunists, right? It's like, oh, this person's attractive. They have a couple things. A couple things are off. Do you know what I mean? Write out what you're really looking for. And if it's like, all these things, but it sounds like you didn't do anything wrong here. This isn't a wrong or right thing. You fell for a guy that doesn't seem so bad. And maybe he did transition and maybe he had a few things that he didn't tell the complete truth about. But it's not like he's a serial cheater or serial liar. He's come clean on some things. So give him some time away from you. And if he comes back and fights for the relationship, you're not in that bad a position. But don't get down on yourself that you wasted time or made a wrong move or this guy love bombed you. Those are all.
I just felt so like, I don't know. I just felt like so like so cheesy, but I did feel so in love with him, and I just thought to myself, he's almost really defined love for me. And I think it's almost because he would do all the perfect things, would say all the perfect words. And like we had a trip lined up later, like around the 17th, in Scotland. And
Mm.
we've booked stuff, and he said, and the end of our conversation last night, he was like, we can discuss things, we can still go ahead with it. But now I'm like, if I'm going to be in such a gray area, I don't want to meet up with someone. I don't know. I just feel very conflicted. And maybe you're right. I need to give myself a couple of days
Yeah.
for my
Definitely.
emotions to like be less charged.
Yeah, because you're taking it to like, well, I want to get married. Well, I want to do this. It's like, stay here, stay present.
I
know
really
that's
don't
what
want to
you
get
want,
married right now.
but you know what I'm saying? Because when you say
Yeah,
that
yeah,
to a
yeah.
guy and he's 29, it doesn't mean he's not interested. It just means he's like, shit, I got to answer that question right now. Like, don't put me in that situation. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think what's confusing for
Yeah.
her is that he was initially like that. I think, right? He was
Yeah,
intense,
he was so
and then
intense,
he
and he was
dropped it.
like, yeah, let's. And then
Right.
he was just like, the only thing I think I became a bit more, maybe the fact that I focused on it a bit more was because he wanted to move to Europe, and ultimately we were going to move in together. I didn't really want to give all of myself, build with this person if marriage wasn't on the cards. And I think this whole
Well,
moving
that's
as well.
That's and he's open to marriage. It's just that he's not going to give you a day or a time or a thing.
At first he said we both agreed let it happen organically. If we need to move in,
Sure.
we're still going to move in with that in mind. And then all of a sudden last night he was just like, I'm not like, it's not that I'm against, I just don't think I'm ready. And like, I don't know, he was just contradicting everything. But he was in a negative headspace as well. And particularly, I don't want to marry someone that I'm going to chase. Like, honestly, I just think to myself, if that's how it's going to start, it's only a slippery slope. Like, I don't want to chase him, and I don't want to, because I feel like it needs to be a mutual thing, right? And it needs to be organic, and it can't be forced from either side. And the want has to be there from both sides. And I guess that would have been what I would have wanted. And now it feels very one-sided. And I don't know.
I know where you're coming from. I think you need a couple days, like I said, and this could be worked through or not worked through, but it's not, like I said, no return.
Right.
A good thing to consider is sometimes we get our feelings out in front. Is there's something called the non-violent communication, which means observe, feelings, need, request. You might like this just to write it out, because sometimes we just get feelings, right? Like, I feel this, I'm upset. You observe, like, for example, the Instagram thing. The observation is you did have an extra follower. It was a girl. And then the feelings are, I feel betrayed, lied to. The request, you need to tell me the truth in the future and not exchange Instagrams with some single woman. So that just gives you an idea of how to like layer it for yourself, even if you're not going to present it that way to him. It helps a little bit to do that. So like right now, let me just show you this really quick.
So observe, feeling, request.
Observe, feeling, or excuse me, observe, feelings, need, request.
Okay.
And it's called the nonviolent communication method. So that's something good for you to just like write out yourself before you talk. And then you can just get really clear on what you want, rather than just go to like, I don't know if this is the person for my whole future. It's like, well, what's the problem? And go by each problem like that. Observe feelings. So the concrete actions we observe that affect our well-being, how we feel in relationship to what we observe, the needs, values, and desires that create our feelings, and then the concrete actions we request. So it's a nice set thing. You know what I'm saying? And you can write that out in your journal when you journal.
Yeah, I shall do.
Did this help you a little bit?
Yeah, thank you very much for your time and your advice. Yeah, I think it helps quite a bit to get like someone from the outside. I mean, my mum sort of figured it out, and I told her last night, which is not great because now if we do, then I've sort of made her more against him now. But I don't know, like I'm just going to focus on what I think at the moment and just give myself time.
Give yourself time, and mom will come around. If they allowed him in the house, they kind of like him already, right? So
True.
he's not listen,
Not a
I've been doing
total-
this a while, and he's he's a choir boy compared to some of the people I hear about, and I'm not just trying to back him up or anything. Like, this is something that you could work through. Okay, these aren't problems that like you could just go like, he's not going to change. I think he's
But he may be
29
done
years
as
old.
well, though. I mean, he
Say
could
that
be
again?
done, though. I mean, he could be done, though.
Well, that's why at this time, give yourself a little bit of space for both of you to process and digest the fact of what it feels like to kind of be broken up. Because when you don't allow that, you don't really feel it, and you don't know, because you guys have never done this yet before, and you don't want to use this as a part of your relationship to get each other's attention. Does that make sense? Like, when you break up again and again, then someone just uses it as a way to win.
Game.
To
Oh,
win.
yeah, no, yeah.
Where this is
But
like
if he gets in contact, do I say let's give each other time, or what would you suggest?
I would say in the moment for you right now, if you want to talk to him and you feel like you're in a good place and you're clear on what you want, not necessarily saying, oh, bringing up all these old things. I think he's, the follower on Instagram, you caught him. He was apologized about it. You move through that. Now, if you think that things aren't going to change, like late night drinking, I don't know if you'd call that like binge drinking or something like that. It doesn't sound like he's an alcoholic. It sounds like he's been telling you, you know what I'm saying? If that's what's bothering you, then work through the problem. Making it bigger is when you go, I'm looking for someone to marry. It's like, okay, what's the problem right now, though? You see what I'm saying? So that's why I said that observe, request, need is really observe, feeling, needs, request. You can journal that out and at least just get honest with what you're upset about and what you're requesting. It's like, for example, him with that female that's a friend, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you knew all that information tells me he was sharing a lot. Now you might say, oh, I had to probe a lot. I still don't see where he like cheated or did something over the top. So you might say in the future, I just want to meet her first. Or, you know what I'm saying? Or in the future, I want, so then he knows where you're going instead of like, you know what? I don't know if this relationship's for both of us. You're not fighting for it. I thought you were.
That's what I did.
Now you're going in a different, men like to, like I said, fee, fi, fo. What's the problem? Just tell me the problem. I want to make up so we can be intimate and be cool again. So they kind of will just, most men will kind of like not want to get into all that stuff. So if you're able to tell them like, just in the future, I want you to be able to just tell me you're with this friend girl or whatever you want to call it. But like I said, he gave you a lot of information.
Yeah. And I did go intense on
hiding
him. No. And I do see like the insecurity is partly me. Well, I would say it's me, but I do think like the lying and all of that sort of validated my insecurity in a way. And so like, I guess it gave me the voice. No,
we'll see how much that just the time that you've had now to talk about it, like give yourself credit. You're being accountable on your end for being a little bit insecure. And I'm saying, this is something that you're insecure about, but what's it like the follower on Instagram? You have something there, right?
100%. Yeah.
Right. A friend that's a girl that had a boyfriend waiting. I don't know. That's debatable. I mean, he told you all those.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So now it's when you start doing that, a guy goes like this. As a man, you go, when am I going to get credit for telling you the truth? When am I going to get credit for, like, give me a pat on the back? And guys will say this a lot. I'm walking on eggshells. I can never get it right. They want like a little dog biscuit, like, please tell me I told you she's a friend. I told you I loved you twice. Now you asked me 3 times. It's like, so that's why this way of communication might be a good method for you. Like I said, that just organizes it for you. So
yeah, I'll take that on board. Thank you for your time.
No problem at all. No problem at all.
And keep
Thanks
up
for
the good
joining.
work.
And
Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
calling in. Yeah.
all right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. 2.5 hours. That was good. Miguel,
great.
I hope you're doing well. I'm speaking for men there in a certain way. That's a good perspective to give, because I think a
Sure.
lot of guys feel that way
Sure.
sometimes.
Mhm.
There's times when you feel like, okay, I did something wrong or not great,
Right.
but like, give me some credit. Guys do this a lot. Like,
Mhm.
tell me when I did something good, or tell me
Just make it easy.
yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. All right, folks. It's been good. It's been grand. I'll be back on deck tomorrow. Thank you so much. Thanks for calling in, Parisa, being bold enough and vulnerable enough to share in the future. If any of you want to call in,
That was great.
we'll be doing that again. And everyone, classic American, love the accent. She did have a very nice voice.
I did.
I will say
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Very nice voice.
Mhm.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Later,
Take
guys.
care.
Later, guys.